like this is a selfie I took, but like, so we, like, that's my background, but then we always
Oh,
put,
fuck yeah.
color to make it kind of like almost looked like a wallpaper background, you know?
That does. It looks horror perfect.
Thanks.
All right. I'll say move your mic in. So it's just about roughly this distance from your face.
Yeah.
And if you'd like, I can adjust the height if you want to be more comfortable.
I'm good. Yeah, no, I'm good.
All right. So let's go. I just want to fucking continue with what we were on. When did you start on the horror podcast?
The horror podcast we've been doing. It was my friend, my friend Zach that I do it with. We literally started during lockdown. We like just became friends on social media, and he really liked Buffy. So my other podcast was a Buffy rewatch podcast, and we would like. He was a capital Y YouTuber, so he would do live streams and he'd invite me, and we like.
What's a capital Y YouTuber? Like super into the YouTube.
Like he made a living.
Oh fuck yeah!
Aspirations. Right. Yeah. And he was kind of like ready to move on to something different because it was mostly like, you know, like the type of videos that were like about you. And he was kind of like, like I kind of want to start doing something different. And so we just started like throwing around ideas, and we always ended up talking about horror movies. And we would sometimes like him and his husband would do like watches over Zoom together during lockdown of like random horror movies.
That's a great way to not go crazy during the pandemic.
Right. Yeah. And like,
productive.
And so like, we just were like, why don't we do a horror podcast? And at first we had it on like my podcast stream, Slayerfest 98 stream. And then we were like, he understandably was like, we should move it to its own thing. So we got the image that I showed you that artist did. And then we just,
Ooh, so real quick, what are the names of your podcast and where can they be found?
Slayerfest 98, which started as a Buffy rewatch podcast, but we cover kind of anything nerdy and or gay. And then My Bloody Judy is the horror one, and it is,
My Bloody Judy. Oh, I thought that said jury. My mom was just rewriting it in my head.
I know, that was just the gum in your mouth when you said that.
Why My Bloody Judy?
Because like, it's like a, you know, like a gay thing where people say like a Judy is like a gay friend. So like he came up with I'm terrible at names. I am truly like, I like freelance write, right? And I can never think of a title. I'm always like, you can put whatever title you want. I'm like very bad at naming things. The name of my podcast, Slayerfest 98, is actually, I had a full-time partner, but he dropped out and he came up with the name. Like, I'm terrible at names.
Because I was going to say, that's a good name. It's fucking...
I thought My Bloody Judy was a pretty good name, yeah.
And the Slayerfest one.
Well, Slayerfest, I just had like a PR person reach out to me. And she was like, oh, so you're really into 80s music. And I was like, no, what? And I realized she thought it was like a Slayer reference.
Yes, that is 80s band, right? I'm hip. I know stuff.
Right? Like, oh, no, I'm very gay. Like, that's not what that is.
Oh, real quick, before I forget, the intro song, I like to do a song that the other person picks of ideally a lesser known sort of artist, or maybe not someone in the super popular mainstream, or maybe even a song by a popular person that's not very popular.
Okay.
And you don't have to know on the spot, but if you think of anything, just let me know, and that will be the intro song.
Okay, I'll think about it.
Cool.
Yeah, okay, I'll think
If anything, I'll just text you afterwards.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, you'll have to remind me.
all good. But wait, what's my name?
What's my name, motherfucker?
Ian.
I remember your name, Alex.
You said you were bad with names. Oh, no, you're talking about coming up with names.
Yeah,
Never mind.
yeah.
Here I am, jumping around too much. Ooh, what was your highlight of the day, Ian?
I had a really good cheeseburger for dinner. That was the highlight.
The simple pleasure.
I worked and then went home and ate and then came here. So,
What do you write for?
oh, I freelance for a couple of places. But the only place that I like consistently freelance for is this place. It's New Now Next, which is Logo, the Gay Network's website. It's like so I write like pop culture-y things. I haven't written for them in a while though. It's been a few months. But I've written for like random places. I think I told you this. I interned at BuzzFeed for a while. So
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, when I lived in New York. That was like, in the realm of jobs, it's like as great as you would expect it. Like celebrities are walking in and out. People are wanting you to talk to them. Like at the time when I worked there, it was during Comic-Con, which was really cool because there were so many people. Jerry Springer's people kept emailing me, and my boss was like, we don't care about that. You don't have time to do that. And I was like, what if I finish all my work? Can I do it? Because my grandma really likes him and I want to get an autograph photo for her. And she was like, yeah, if you finish all your work, you can do it.
See, that's a good boss. I like that.
I finished every fucking thing I needed to do the last day of Comic-Con and then emailed them. Was like, is he still around? Because I can do it. And when I got it signed from my grandma, her name was Panchi. She was an older Puerto Rican lady. He goes, I'm assuming this isn't for you. Is it your grandma? And I was like, yeah, it's my grandma. And he's like, Panchi, what's that name? And I was like, oh, she's from Puerto Rico. And he went, yeah, I have a lot of Hispanic grandmas that liked me. And I was like, oh, what a weird demographic for you.
For Jerry Springer of all people. What does Jerry Springer do? The name's super familiar as I'm trying to specify.
The like trashy like talk show. He would do like where the people would fight a lot.
Wait, no, that's not the guy with the curly black hair who was super edgy. He's on Sirius XM.
You're thinking of Howard Stern.
Howard Stern, yeah, yes. No, sorry. Mm-hmm.
No, Jerry Springer's like an older like grandpa.
Oh, okay.
And he, I think at one point was maybe a senator or a mayor, then did like a talk show that was pretty popular because people would get into like literal fights on stage. And I think it might have just ended or it's still on. I don't know.
Like they knew they were getting into a fight beforehand, or they just got so heated.
Kind of a little bit of both, I think.
Okay. I didn't know you were Puerto Rican.
Yeah. It was like the trashy talk show when I was younger.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, gay culture. I feel like I'm just so curious about the culture in general because it's something I'm not very well acquainted with, but it definitely seems to be a big part of America and just like the world, especially nowadays. Like it's built up momentum. It's not a quiet background culture anymore.
Yeah. Don't worry, I can be your token gay friend.
Finally. Okay. How do you even ask this? Bear with my rough questioning. We'll refine it as we go along. But what are some important aspects of the gay culture for you? We'll go with that for now.
I guess like oh god. I'm like, this is like a big question. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, let's try to refine. Does it play, like, in what ways does it play a role in your life? Why do you care about being part of the culture, not just kind of having that be a background thing?
I guess like the area where we live is like I mean, it's not that conservative, but it can lean kind of conservative. And like, I don't know, growing up, I felt like even though my parents are both like, didn't care and whatever, it was still like, I feel like, I think of like a lot of kids, right? That's what I always think of. Like as a kid, I was still scared to even tell them, even though like neither of them were like outwardly homophobic with me or whatever. And you still get nervous about that because especially, when I was younger, it's not as bad now, but I mean, it's coming back in style, homophobia. But like
coming back in style.
It's like I don't want any kid to feel like Barnes & Noble, where I work, I do the LGBT YA section. That's not a section we have planned for the store. It's like I order the books for it and I like curate it myself.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And it makes me happy because like these young queer like teens can go over there and be like, and just like browse it and, like kind of normalizes it for them. So they're like, oh, cool, the gay section. And like they can go over there, you know what I mean? And like, that's like very important for me because I know how scared I was as a kid, even with not having parents that were like, super homophobic or anything. It was still like scary. So I always think of that. Like I always want, especially now with all the like conservatives being like, oh, like don't have anything gay and you're a child. It's pedophilia. And it's like, no, you're gay as a kid. Like you don't turn gay when you get older. That's like.
Wait, I have never heard.
You haven't
don't
heard
put gay
that?
things around kids as pedophilia.
That's been like the new thing where they're like, they like don't want any like kids near anything pride or drag queens because it's like they're relating it to pedophilia again. Yeah. Which is like, oh, how retro. They did that in like the 80s and 90s.
Oh, so you think the comeback.
Literally, it's come back. Yeah. Like we had a woman actually in the store the other day go up to these two girls who I don't even think were gay. They just were browsing the LGBTYA section and told them she would pray for them because Jesus still loved them. They just needed to pray. And it's like, mind your fucking business. Like,
man, that's so weird because it's it seems to be coming from a place of I want you to go to heaven. I want to save your soul. But when you bring it down to reality, have you ever seen the South Park episode of Butters going to straight camp?
No, I haven't.
Have you watched South Park in general?
I used to watch it more when I lived with my best friend was like really into it and we would get stoned and watch it a lot when we lived together in Brooklyn.
That is the way to do it.
But I don't think I've watched, it was like I would just watch what he had on and it always made me laugh, but I just like.
So this is dark, but a twisted sort of funny. He goes to the gay camp, right? And it turns out it seems so horrible to say when it's not in the context of the South Park portrayal, but a lot of the kids were killing themselves. And it's so weird that you could be I'm trying to save your soul. And then the outcome is actually, I'm making you feel alienated like a horrible person just for being yourself. That's so, because it's weird for me to see it from the outside perspective. I mean, I'm bi. I don't find very many guys attractive, but I have from time to time. But it has been something I've been mostly straight my life. I've only started to realize this part of myself more in the last year or two, things along those lines. So I was never dealing with it as a kid. Like, was there bullying? Because it's always been in the air, right? Especially as I've noticed some members in my family and things along those lines are very much like, you're not allowed to be. and I guess I've kind of inhibited it for so much of my life. Like, all right, I guess I'm just not allowed to be.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. I also feel like the good thing, like these two teens, I was like, I am so sorry. Like I didn't want them to feel, like weird being in the store. And so like me and my boss were both like, we're really sorry. And like, they were less upset. They were like, oh, she's just an idiot. It's fine. And I was like,
all right, cool.
I liked you too. Like, cool. They were like, yeah, she's stupid. It's fine.
Mm-hmm. Who's the boss?
Hakeem.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I don't know if you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm cool with
He's great.
Mm-hmm.
He's he's literally one of the nicest bosses I've ever worked for.
Yeah.
Especially in retail, because like, I feel like a lot of retail bosses can sometimes pretend like we're doctors and people are gonna die if like we don't. But he's very like, yeah. It's like when I went to that horror convention I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to request off, and the schedule was up. And it was 2 weeks away, and I looked, and I was like, why am I? Ooh, I never requested off. And I was like, hey, I hope you don't kill me, but... And he was like, oh, that's it? You just need off the weekend? Yeah, that's fine. I thought it was going to be something big. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I thought like you would be annoyed because I'm scheduled. And he was like, yeah, it's just 3 days. It's fine. And I was like, cool, great.
All right, fuck yeah. It's such a relaxed atmosphere there. I've been going there for fucking years. How long have you been working there? I've seen you there for a while. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think... So I've worked there twice. Mm-hmm. I worked there in undergrad, and then when I moved back here, I worked there. So I think this time it's been 6 years. Before I worked there 5, and then I worked at 2 different ones in New York. Mm. So I think altogether my time with the company is like 16 years or something.
Mm-hmm. How'd you end up in the Barnes & Noble realm?
I had worked a lot of retail. I mean, did you work a lot of retail when you were a teen? Because I did.
I lean more towards like Panera Bread, Chipotle.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I just like, my first job was at a... I haven't been to that mall in forever. You know, the Echelon Mall?
Heard about it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, it was when I was in high school, it was like bigger. And like, there was a comic book shop that I went to all the time. And the boss was just like, hey, do you want a job? Because I'm looking for someone to work part-time here. And, 17-year-old, 16-year-old me thought that was the fucking coolest, right? It's like.
Discounts on comic books?
And he offered it to me. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
So I was like, cool. And then that kind of just like working there was a woman I worked with who was like, you ever been to Cinemark, the movie theater in Somerdale? Mm. She was like, hey, I'm a manager there. We're looking to hire. Do you want to come work there? And I was like, all right, yeah, sure. And then I worked weirdly, like within the first 5 months of my first job, I got my second job. And then I would just work both because they both were part-time. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of just like, I don't know, I guess like working 2 retail jobs right away. It was like, yeah, I'll just do this. I don't love it, but.
Mm-hmm. But does what it needs to, right?
Yeah. And Barnes & Noble in the realm of retail is definitely like lesser evil. Like we do get some crazy fucking people.
Really?
But, yeah.
Who can I hear a story of crazy Barnes and Noble? Because you think Barnes and Noble, you think the calm music, just old people reading in the coffee section.
Oh, no, it's like just the other day, this old woman asked me, she was looking for a book. And when I looked it up, it was like, I don't remember who it was written by, but it was about how the election was stolen from Trump, blah, blah, blah. The book didn't come out till August. And I was like, oh, it doesn't come out till August. And she went, of course you people don't have that book. And I was like, it's not out. And she was like pissed at me because she was like, oh, like they always think like.
You're part of the man.
Yeah. And it's like, this is a company. This is a business. They don't give a shit. They're going to sell it. Like, it's just not out yet. That's all. Like,
find an online place to. Okay, now that it seems like a perfect segue. I'm so curious. What are to the degree you feel comfortable talking about it, what's your view of Trump? Like, how has Trump impacted your life?
He's made my relationship with my father worse, which I think a lot of people can say that. I think he's a piece of shit, a scumbag, a really terrible person who doesn't care about anyone but himself.
Why do you think? So I assume your dad likes him.
Yeah.
Why do you think your dad likes him? Because this has been something I'm very curious about.
Right, and it's weird, right? Like, and my dad, it's so weird because when I came out, he was very like, okay, like literally, and then I was like 18, 19, something like that. And my dad literally was like, I don't care as long as your grades stay good.
That's been one of the weirdest contradictions I've been finding as I've been investigating the Trumposphere, that you hear the basket of deplorables narrative about that group of people, but then you talk to them a lot of time, and like you say with your dad, you know, I'm fine, you can be gay, I don't give a shit.
Well, that said, I will say that then once he started, he used to be like, I mean, whatever, but I would have said he was like a good conservative, but you can't vote against your gay son consistently all the time, and I'm not going to think you're a good person, so I would not say that. Because I think it's like it's just they get so unreasonable when it comes to him. And I don't really know what the appeal there is other than he's saying the racist things you want to be saying, or the sexist shit you want to be. Like, I don't get the appeal.
Have you heard any reasonable arguments for someone wanting to vote for Trump?
I have never heard, I mean, I've heard like they feel strongly about it.
I have also heard this.
I've never heard someone like actually be like, this is where he does good, and me be like, okay, that makes sense. Never once in my life. Yeah, like my father has these very, very, very wealthy friends. I don't like them, but they're like my parents' best friends, right? Mm-hmm. They suck. The thing I remember is his friend telling a story how, I don't know what he does. I want to say he's an engineer, maybe, but he worked for Trump and he hated him. And he would tell us stories of working with Donald Trump. And this was like, 15 years ago, right? I was like a kid. Well, 15 years ago. No, I was not a kid. But anyway, you know what I mean?
I got you.
And like him saying like, oh, this guy sucks. He always is lying. He's always ripping people off. Like he doesn't pay his clients and then will threaten to sue you if you like say peep to him or his company. And like him talking about how fucking stupid this man was and then voting for him and becoming a devoted fan. And it's like, but you told me how bad he was. Like, that doesn't make sense.
That brings a weird point to my mind where let's say you need a surgery, a really intense surgery, and you're given the list of doctors to choose from. And there's this one doctor who has the best credentials around. They have a great reputation at doctorhood, but they're racist. They're an asshole. They're a bigot. But even when they do surgery on people of different races and of different sexes, they still do a great job. Would you want that doctor? And I'm not saying that's exactly Trump, but when I think about it, does the character really matter for a president if they do like good policies, make good movements and laws pass?
Yeah, so in theory, if there was anything good about him, I would be able to be like, okay, I get it. Like he did these good things. That's why you can look past the bad things. But for me, it's like, oh, the bad things, these bad things you think are good, and you're going to look past the other bad things because you think these bad things are good.
What bad things did they think were good that you've seen?
I mean, a lot of like, they're always white and usually older, and they're just like, oh, he's looking out for me. I've been forgotten. And it feels like queer people existing is them being forgotten. Queer people being acknowledged is like them being forgotten. Or like black people being acknowledged is like, oh, these white people feel like they're being forgotten. And it's like, boo fucking who? I don't give a shit. So yeah, those are my very reserved, nice thoughts.
I appreciate you holding back a little bit. But oh, fuck yeah, let's talk about it. Honesty, goddammit. Mm-hmm. Ooh, okay. Now I'll peel behind the onion a little bit to what do you think? Have you seen any dark sides to how should I say? Do you focus on politics at all, or is it more just like, it's a background thing?
I do, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have you seen any negative sides to the race movements that want to make other races more equal? The gay movements, the sex movements that want to make other sexes more equal. Have you seen a dark side in those at all?
I think the only thing, because I don't know, are you like extremely online because I am, unfortunately. Well, be happy that you're not. Try to stay away as long as you can with doing this show.
It has been an avid effort. Getting online so much, it makes viewing reality strange. It makes it hard to tell what are the big problems because there are a lot of problems always bombarding me when I'm on the interwebs.
So I would say, like, with social media, I find lots of times it's like, and I get it, everyone's tensions are high, especially like with how political, like, everything has become and how, like, very divided. It's like, say you were like, I don't know. Now I'm trying to think of, like, if you questioning me something like, oh, like, what part of, like, gay culture is important to you? Mm-hmm. If, like, maybe you worded that incorrectly and someone was like, oh, this guy's being homophobic, and, like, oh, like, whatever, and then people pile on, and then it's like, no, that person just was asking. Like,
I feel that while I'm asking, I feel like I want to make sure I word this in a precise way. So so misinterpreting it is very, very difficult. And you can always misinterpret something if you're really looking for it.
Yeah. And like, maybe you're in a mood, right? I can see, like, you know, there's times when I've been in like a shitty mood and it's like, don't fucking ask me that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I definitely feel that.
Yeah. You know, sometimes that happens. You're just in a bad mood and it's like someone says something to you and you're like, fuck off. I don't want to talk to you. So I try to, like, and like I say this, but I am not. I'm not always reasonable.
Ditto.
I try to remind myself when I'm in that mood. It's like, oh, you're just getting annoyed because you're just annoyed in general. I don't know that everyone does that, and I'm not saying I do it all the time. I don't achieve the reminding myself you're just annoyed, but
doing it from time to time,
yeah,
very good.
I think that would be like, I don't know. I feel like the people maybe overreacting to someone. Like, I remember one time when my cousin was visiting me in New York when I lived there. She's so sweet. And she's like this, like, very spacey hippie. My cousin's wife. So we're not really.
It's funny when you say spacey, I know exactly what you know, hey, man.
Yeah, and like very well-meaning. And I remember her being like, because her telling me that she was asking me, she was like, can I ask you sex questions? And I was like, yeah, I don't care. That's fine. And like,
the way I imagine that's exactly how she said it.
Yeah, I was very like, am I allowed to? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. And I remember her specifically saying, what do you do when one guy has to poop? And I was like, you don't have sex. And she was like, oh, is that all? And I was like, yeah. What?
I feel like in general, if you have to poop, you don't
want to have sex, right? I was like, I mean, it wasn't a hard question to ask, but I could see where maybe someone might get mad at because it was a stupid question. But like, I knew it was coming out of like, it wasn't, you know.
It wasn't like a stupid question with a fucked up intent behind it.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of sense that. We're asking me this stupid ass, but you're doing it maybe to piss me off or something along those lines.
And sometimes it comes down to like reading tone, which I try to, I try very hard to like read the person's tone and think of intent with stuff like that. And like, you know, I wasn't mad. I was definitely a little bit like, why are you asking me that question? You should know the answer. I mean, I know you're straight, but like, you know, right? Like,
what do you do when you want to fucking poop at the same time? Oh, life's toughest question. I mean,
I guess it's not as hard. Like, I guess you still, but like, you're not exactly feeling like cute, right? Like,
that's a great way to say it.
So stuff like that. Like, I can see where, you know, she had asked that question on Twitter, which is not the great place to ask a question like that.
Period.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, someone might be like, what the fuck is this person trying to, and you know, so like shit like that. I mean, and I don't know if you find this, I feel like Republicans are very good at falling in line, and like liberals in general are bad at it, where like we will eat our own, and I try not to do that as much. Eat our own while nothing gets done, and then the Republicans take power, and then it's like, well, now gay people can't get married again, like shit like that. And like, I try never to like take part in like the big infighting. Like during the primaries, I was like, you know, I don't like Biden, but I'm going to vote for him. Fine. Like then he won, and I was annoyed, but it was like, okay, now this is what we get.
Isn't that so fucking weird? I've heard comedians busting the balls of America in general, where you're going to the election and you're going to the voting booths, and we all know who each person's going to vote for pretty much just by looking.
Right, yeah.
But everyone looks like they're not happy about who they're voting for. That's a theme I've heard so much throughout my life, and that seems like it shouldn't. It seems like something's off about that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just the nature of voting for high power people.
Right, I guess, right.
But maybe not. Maybe you can have someone where it's like, I like that person.
It would be really nice if that could happen. I mean, when I voted for Obama, I definitely was like, oh, I like him. Like, that was one of the first times I voted in an election, I think. And it was like, okay, no, I like him. And, like, I was happy to, and Hillary was whatever, and Biden I definitely liked even less. But I'm not an asshole. I know that, like, not voting isn't going to help. The thing I get annoyed at is when people are like, well, now this election, I'm going to not vote. And it's always the people that would be voting centrist / more liberal that are saying that shit. It's never like, oh, Republican, they vote. And
there's
like,
a huge chunk of our population that doesn't vote.
Which is wild. And like my mom used to work at a dress shop, and like almost all the women she works with, and they're like pretty liberal, none of them vote, and they've never voted. And they're like 70. And it's wild to me. Right? Yeah, it's like very weird.
Strange.
I say this, but now I have to, do you vote?
Yes, I voted. I voted. I did not vote. I think I could have, but I didn't vote during the Hillary and Trump election. I was 18 at the time. And you know something? I'm 23 now.
Jesus Christ. I am a lot older than you.
You're good. You have a young appearance.
Thanks.
And your energy, you're very vital.
It's all the weed. It keeps me young.
Oh my God. Going to these dispensaries is you'll see the employees there look so happy.
Me and one of my coworkers were like, I wonder if they pay well. Because like if they do, that's an employee discount on weed. That's nice.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, right?
And you just get to deal with people who smoke weed all day. I don't imagine that's very infrequently,
right?
I hope,
yeah,
gonna be a dickhead.
Yeah,
it's not like a liquor store. I feel like you're more likely to fall into.
I feel like a liquor store, you probably encounter a lot of like dickheads, right?
Yeah. If the caricatures of a stoner versus an alcoholic are true,
right? Like stoners, like they're gonna maybe not know what they want, and that's like the worst, right? Like, wait, do you know how old I am?
30.
Well, 39.
Okay. I had a guesstimate when you said you were voting for Obama.
Right.
Was that your the first election?
I think the first time. I can't remember if it was my second or first. Was his first term was either my second or first time voting. No, I guess it would have been my second time. Yeah.
Gotcha. So, okay. So I feel like you're at an age where you're more responsibly engaged in politics. Because a lot of people around my age are still apathetic. They don't really give a shit. It's background noise. Or this is, I think it might be even worse, a reality show to them. And this is kind of where I was at when I was 18. I'll tell you something that is true and fucked up. You ever see Fight Club? You know the opening of the movie where he's so bored with his life. He's like, man, I just want something to happen. Anything. Even if it's the plane ripping apart while I'm flying. A part of me wanted Trump to win just so I could see chaos ensue. Just because I had this stupid ass idea of like, oh, then something will be happening. And there'll be some explosive, crazy, like in the movies, right? An adventure will happen. And that was a genuine part of me that I didn't vote for him, but there was a part that really wanted to see that go down.
But I mean, especially if you're younger like that, okay, that's not like, we get mad at you for being 18 and a little stupid. Like, okay, yeah, who wasn't when they were 18? I don't know.
Fair enough.
That that does like track or make sense. Because like, I feel like when I was 18, I wasn't nearly like, I wasn't like, racist or sexist or any of that shit, but I was a little bit more like, whatever about that kind of stuff. And I feel like you just are when unless you're like a super smart, like politically active and aware teen, which I mean, there are some of them too. Yeah. But most people, were like what you said.
Video games and smoking weed and hanging out with the friends and just talking shit. Yeah. Have you noticed I'm trying to figure out how much these problems with like Trump and politics, how serious are they? Have I been watching an overhyped version to catch views on the internet and on the news and things along those lines? Or are we actually in a genuine danger in America at the moment? It's hard for me to.
I mean, it is hard, especially with like Like everything can be sensationalized, but I will say literally like that story of that woman with that book, that's not uncommon. That happens all the time, and it's always a Trump book, and it's always them saying that we're like purposefully not selling it to them or some shit. Like every time we don't have one of them, it'll be like, oh well, and there's like some comment about us, you know, purposely not selling this book, or I forget, there was someone put out a fucking self-published book about Biden's son, Hunter, and it was like called like Laptop from Hell, right? It was like a no-name publisher, and it sold out. Everyone was insisting we weren't carrying it on purpose, and it's like, no, it's a small publisher. If a book is published through a small publisher, they don't get a lot of like upfront copies printed, right? And that's very much the norm in publishing. But these people who like don't give a shit about what facts actually are then going to yell at us, and it would happen if I would see a grumpy old man coming up, I'd be like, fuck, he's gonna ask for that Hunter Biden book. And it would happen. And like, then they would go into their rants about how we're too liberal. And it's like, the book fucking sold out, you idiot. Like what, I can't do anything about that. Right? And like every time with those books, it's always those people that'll get like, have to say something shitty like that. And I'm like, if you're saying that to me, you don't even know me. I mean, granted, you're not gonna look at me and think, oh, he's definitely, you know, voted for Trump. But like, you know what I mean? It's like, who gives a shit? Just shut up. Like, we don't have it. Okay, we don't have it. Like,
why is it something to yell about?
Yeah. It's never any, that's like, it's not political. Barnes and Noble is a business. They want to sell books. Like, and then when we eventually, like, it took a while from the print more, right? Because that shit takes a while. Then it didn't sell that well once we got it in, because it was more like the hype up front. And then, you know, people didn't care as much.
You mean they're not advertising it as much because they're trying to break down this guy's...
Right. Like, and we had a stack of it in the new release bay, and it just, like, didn't really go anywhere. So, like, I don't know. Like, what do these people want, right?
Are there any conspiracies you believe in?
Some of the older ones I can sometimes get behind.
Like the JFK assassination or something?
Like, it's not that I, like, believe them. It's just I'm like...
There seems like there, there's some weird pieces not putting together.
I once fell down like a YouTube hole. And again, not that I believe it. It's just like... And it's also interesting to hear some of that, because, like, I can buy it more with older things. And I, like... fell down a YouTube hole when I was stoned once about like the moon landing being faked, and it was like all this evidence, and I was like, maybe it was.
The best, because I was on a similar rabbit hole before, but the best piece of evidence I ever heard, and do with this what you will, was that Russia would have also had to be behind the conspiracy, because Russia agreed that it happened and they were looking at it through telescopes, but unless there's some weird, the Cold War's fake and Russia actually doesn't care if we're there for, and that was something that was like, okay, either there's an Illuminati's way more powerful than I realized.
Right, it's like a giant conspiracy. Like, yeah.
Oh, but that is the thing about conspiracies. When they are true, they're wildly, super spectacularly true. Although many of them do not seem to be true.
Right. Yeah. I feel like you can fall down a YouTube hole very easily to like, and I think that's the problem too, to like vaguely convince yourself. Like I was stoned and I was like, yeah, maybe it didn't. But like you said, then there is pieces of evidence where like, no, that shows you that it did. There's no like.
But even then, how do you know? It comes down to like, can I trust these sources of information?
Yeah. Or like, I actually really like I don't even know if this is considered a conspiracy, but the fact that like, what is it? God, now I'm gonna mess this up. Something about like Shakespeare it wasn't Shakespeare that wrote a lot of his plays.
I've heard similar things.
Yeah. And I find that kind of interesting because that's like so old, you know, it's like maybe, you know, and not that that's not like a big, you know what I mean? But like, I find shit like that because it's like kind of like a smaller thing and like from so long ago that like very much that could be true. Right.
Yeah. The amount of evidence we have there leaves this huge realm of mystery.
Right.
And you have heard of people doing that before. Did you ever hear the movie Big Eyes?
Yeah, yeah.
And the woman's husband was
he like took credit, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they started that initially because the line of thinking went something like, you're a woman, so it won't get popular if you try to promote these. But eventually, they had this huge court case. And then he was trying to steal the credit from her. And eventually, they just told him, okay, draw a picture. And we'll figure the judge just draw a picture and we'll see whose looks more accurate.
Right. It's like, well, she can paint. So, yeah.
And they're in the courtroom and you see the husband staring there, like staring at it, like he's thinking about how to draw. And you can just imagine the sweat trickling down.
His stomach is like, burr.
Oh, getting caught in some bullshit.
I mean,
Have you ever been caught in some, or seen people get caught, or caught someone in a rather comical lie? Like, it's obviously you're red-handed.
trying to think. I feel like there has to be, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Me neither,
But,
as I ask myself.
I don't know. I always so often feel awkward that there has to have been times that I don't know. Yeah. I can't think of anything right now, but I'm sure there are. That's not me saying there aren't.
You're good. All good. All good. Want to dive down? And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot.
Where are we diving down to?
I want to get into things you really care about, things you're passionate about, and the way you love to spend your time. What would be the ideal Ian life within a year from now in all its important facets?
Okay, so ideal Ian life. I lived in New York for 10 years. I want to move back. That has been my goal. I moved back home right before the pandemic because it's a breakup and I was running out of money and New York is very expensive. My ideal life would be I live back in Brooklyn. So I really liked the area I lived in Brooklyn. Nothing crazy, just like a normal life, but I'm making money from my podcast so I don't have to have a day job. That is like, that would be, and I went to school, I have my MFA in nonfiction writing, right? So I have a fucking MFA and I'm back at the same place I worked at before I had the MFA. My like joke when I'm spiraling is I moved to New York for 10 years to get into crazy debt, get a second degree, work at BuzzFeed, and come back to work at Barnes & Noble.
You seem to have good spirits about it. That's nice.
Like, that was my plan all along. It would be like I can function as an adult and a human being, like, like I can eat and like whatever, like, and be fine and comfortable and just have like a normal apartment. It doesn't even have to be something fancy, but for me, just having my own place. So I also never lived alone. I always had roommates when I lived in New York. I really would like to live alone. I think that would be nice.
Dogs?
Have you ever lived alone?
Technically, yes. I was living out of my van and will continue to in a few weeks from now as I was traveling around for the past few months. And yeah, just stopping in rest stops, Planet Fitness parking lots, sleeping in a mattress in the back. It was nice. I like having...
I don't know that I should do that.
That's fair enough.
You are more of a rugged man.
It is not for everybody, that's for sure. Sleeping with pepper spray. It's not...
That would stress me out.
Yeah, it should.
But yeah, I think like just like having my own place, being comfortable. I wouldn't mind a dog. My ideal dog is either a pug or a French bulldog. Because I grew up with a pug, and they're so cute, and they're not like, they just want to like lay around and eat snacks. That's like all I want to do. Even like taking my pug out. My pug is named Adam. He didn't want to go out, and I'd be like, no, dude, I see you sniffing. You got to go out, and he'd be like, ugh. Like, they're so lazy, they don't even want to like go outside to poop. They just want to like, I'll just
come on, I'll just scoot to the side.
Fine. And that's like my kind of dog. I don't need a dog that likes
like a German Shepherd. I want to run.
Yeah, no.
I want to always be doing.
I dated a guy who had, I think it was a German Shepherd, and holy hell, those dogs are so hyper and so big, and the dog like very friendly and like lovey, but like too big.
So, that's not a city dog.
Lap.
Ooh.
And I'd be like, I can't move.
And it's just there breathing with a smile on its face.
And like once it slept, it would like, if I slept over, it would want to sleep in bed with us. And it would like curl up onto me where I'm at like the edge of the bed. And I'm like, I can't really move or breathe right. Like, it's just like,
it's you really wanted to just sleep with your boyfriend. It's like kicking you out of the bed.
Yeah. It was like, no, this is my man, bitch.
Dog. I actually want a German Shepherd, but I do not want that in a city. And definitely not in my fucking car. Yeah.
You would have no room.
No. And that would just be torturous for the dog. Maybe I could see myself in the city for like a year or two. I feel like it's always something to do, super hyper. Why do you like the city?
There's a lot to do. I'm like, I tend to be more social. And like, here in the suburbs, there isn't as much to do. I don't have a lot of like queer friends here. And like, I got so spoiled living in New York for 10 years because it was like, I didn't have to see a straight person. I didn't have to like socialize with a straight person for like months at a time.
Is that because there are so many gay people in New York, or it's just so easy to stay within a community of like mostly gay people?
I would say both.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely both.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just like, there are a bunch of gay bars and you meet people. Like I would meet people going out, and like since moving back here, I was never one. I don't know if you like the dating. I fucking hate dating apps.
I'm not a huge fan. Maybe if I want to boost my ego and scroll through just for that one like that I don't even message back, but it's like, yeah.
That's for the ego.
Oh, it's terrible, yeah. But no, I'm not a huge fan.
And they're like, I'm sure you can imagine in this area, it's like pretty bleak for like gay people. And it's like,
compared to New York, yeah.
it's like 6-year-old closeted men or like people with a blank profile. And I'm like, I'm not going to talk to you if you have a blank profile.
Mm-hmm. Or the ones who have no pictures of themselves.
Yeah. And it's like,
it's like a meme, a cat, and like, oh, okay.
I like never understand though. Just like, do people message them, right? Like,
If they ever find that that's going to be the love of their life. The one person.
it's like, oh, that cat meme. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been waiting. Yeah. Exactly.
I always wonder that with those like kind of profiles. I'm like, how does this work for you? Because like, who's going to approach you if it's not you?
Does it, right? Or the people who only have filters on, like really zoomed in a specific angle. Like, what are you hiding?
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, like, I went on one date with one guy that I met on an app, and he ended up having a boyfriend, and they were open. And like, that's fine, but like, should have told me that prior to going out. And we like just kissed and then never hung out again.
Kiss and then tell you, oh, by the way, I have a boyfriend, but he's okay with it.
And
it's okay, but
no judgment, but just like, like let me know ahead of time.
Fair enough. And it's like, what you're doing if you're not telling me beforehand.
Right.
Or at least I get that sense.
Yeah.
Is Philly not?
I mean, it is, but like, the lifts are so expensive if you take a lift because of the bridge. That I'll always want to drive in, but then I can't really, I'm not like gonna drive home drunk.
Yeah.
So it's like I get like last time I went out 2 Saturdays ago, which is the first time in forever I had been out. My friend invited me out, and I was literally like, okay, I'm going to do 2 shots and have 2 drinks right away when I get there. That way I don't drink the rest of the night.
Just plastered for 30 minutes, then kind of sleepy.
Then I drank water the rest of the night. And yeah, by the end of the night, I was like, oh, I'm so tired. I just want to go home.
But I like the idea of that. Oh my God, have you ever had Everclear?
No, I have not.
That is a shot that...
Ugh, I feel like that would kill me.
It burns so much. But it you feel it.
Does that like get you drunk like pretty fast, I would imagine? Yeah.
You take 1 shot of that, you feel like you just down 2 beer, just chug 2 beers, maybe 2.5. I was at my friend's bar, and he asked, "All right, guys, just on the house, pick whatever drink you want. I'll give you 1 shot of it." And my other 2 friends picked reasonable drinks. I'm like, Everclear, go hard or go home. Oh my God, I've never felt so much burning in the throat to me. But afterwards, it felt great.
Flexing.
Yeah, yeah. Very true, very true. It's the kind of drink that will definitely light on fire.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the gay bars I used to hang out in New York, a lot of the drag queens would drink Jaeger, just like in a glass. And there was one that she would like, if she was going home, she would give it to me. And there was like a while where that's what I would drink. And that shit is like
Jaeger bomb.
Tar in you. Like
that is a vivid description, but I know what you mean. Yeah. It sits there.
It's just like, yeah, it's like heavy and strong and like thick. Like, ugh. Yeah. Now I feel like I would like throw up and die if I had Jaeger in a glass.
I've only recently started to feel hangovers. And I'm beginning to feel age. And I know... I don't think I can say that yet.
I was just saying, fuck you.
Fair enough. I was waiting for it. That's it. But the first time you wake up and you're like, oh, this is what they're talking about.
I can proudly proclaim that I am almost 40 and I still don't get the 2-day hangover, but I've had a couple friends be like, they're rough. Like
2-day?
Yeah, I've had a couple friends that like once it hit like 30, 35, it was like, ooh, now I get those 2-day hangovers. I'm good. I mean, I get fucking like, when I went out that night, I told you I was like sleepy by the end of the night. I was good. I drove home. I had such a bad hangover the next day, and I was like, what the fuck? I was sober. I was tired when I drove home.
And you were drinking a lot of water, you said?
Yeah, and I drank water the rest of the night, but I think it's because I came home and I smoked 2 bowls, and like that probably dried me out more, because it like dries you out a little. And
It
like,
does
isn't
have a
that, like,
cottonmouth thing.
Isn't that like kind of what a hangover is? You're like dehydrated.
I always thought it was, dehydration. That's what I've heard.
So
have you ever heard of Pedialytes?
Fun fact, I was just about to tell you that like now I drink, like I buy Pedialyte because I do get dehydrated from smoking so much sometimes. So like I'll like buy 4 at a time, have them in the fridge, and if like if I'm like just smoking right before bed, then I'm fine. But if I'm like smoking and like doing shit at my computer, I will have the Pedialyte there to drink while I'm
Recharge for sure. Ooh, what are your favorite types of marijuana?
I'm really bad with this because when I moved back, so in New York, I was spoiled. I could get a delivery person. It wasn't legal, but I had and if that delivery person stopped delivering, I would get another. Like, I literally went through like 4 different people. It was just like, oh, this person. They always had like.
Were these shoddy dealer delivery people, or were they essentially a business under the table sort of?
A little bit of both, but I never had any issues. Like one of them was so weird. It was like you had to call a number, say that you wanted flour. They would tell you what they had and when the person would be there. But then they stopped delivering to my area, and the rest of it would just be like a guy I text. Like one of them was like super hot. This like super hot, very like tough, straight dude who'd be like, "Sup, bro? What's up?" And I'd be like, "God, you're like,
you sure you don't want to come in just a second?
Like, do you want to like sit on the couch and smoke and kiss? I mean,
I mean, just smoke and we'll see what happens.
And like, it was always like I had a pick. But then when I moved back here, it was like, there was like a girl who was like 19 that I was buying from, and then she just like ghosted me. And I'm like, fuck. And I like couldn't find anyone else for a while. So I kept having to like be like, can I buy some from you? For like friends.
Oh, it's so demeaning too.
know, right?
And now it's finally we're becoming people again. We have stores. Stores.
I meant to today. I was like, ooh, maybe I'll stop by because there's one right by my work. But I was like, man, it'll take too long if I have to eat because I do need to. I mostly smoke to sleep now. Like when I was living in New York and I had my apartment, my roommate is actually the one that he was a big pothead he then dated a girl who like didn't like it. So he kind of stopped and then he doesn't smoke anymore, but I still do. But since moving back to live with my parents, I usually only smoke before bed because it does. I don't know if it helps you, but it does help me sleep.
Yes.
Yeah. And like I have really bad sleep issues. And so I'll usually smoke before bed. But so I'll just get like whatever indica.
Yeah, indicas are a good knockout.
Yeah.
Every now and then I like that daytime, like a sativa, just a little bit, just a little touch,
nice, right? Yeah.
A background noise. Ooh, have you ever dabbled in the psychedelic realm?
I have not, but you have, correct?
Yes.
Tell me about it. Now I'm interviewing you.
Yes. Yeah. All right. I'm down. What to fucking say? I'll stick with ayahuasca because that's the one that's been the most impactful. The others have been fun, and there has been some profound things you take away from it, but it's so hard to put into words. I would just sound like a trippy hippie dippy whose brain's fried trying to, like, man, you feel one with everything. You see the connectivity of all. And it's like,
Like, insert all the cliches here.
Yes, exactly. But ayahuasca was more a medicine, and it was treated... Well, this is very important. And to anyone who ever wants to do it, make sure you do it in an official setting. This is not something you just do with some homies, whereas, I don't know, we're hanging out. Yeah, no, this was very guided by people who've been doing it for years, if not decades, and you had to take you through it. And they taught you this reverence to have for it. It wasn't just like you're getting high. This was a sacred medicine. And when you started to view it like that, it almost felt as though the high became different.
Okay.
And to just that view of drugs, see, even saying drugs kind of feels dirty now. Like, it doesn't do it the credit. But thinking about drugs like that when I came back, it helped smoking to not abuse smoking weed or drinking alcohol, things along those lines. But it has kind of worn off because the culture doesn't treat it so much like that. anymore, but it doesn't. It seems like we're missing something. After I touch that for a moment, sacred. Have you ever felt as though you've seen something as sacred in your life, Ian? Or religion in general? How has religion played a part in your life? And now,
Nah. I mean, growing up very gay, it was just like, well, this is everything it's telling me is that I'm a sinner and I'm going to hell. Well, fuck you then. Great. And like my dad's family is like, so even though my dad's conservative, he's not religious because he came from a very religious family. Like they didn't let him listen to rock music because that was like the devil's.
The devil's.
Yeah. Which is like bananas, but so like I don't know, I always would like relate it to that, and I've just never been like, even as a kid when I don't know, did you do CCD? I don't know if you're religious.
I was we were like every other Sunday or on the holidays we'd go to church sort of family.
So like Puerto Ricans, it's like can be like cultural. So like my mom isn't religious, but to her it was like, but this is like what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my brother both like hated going to church. And like at CCD, I once wrote, I forget, it was like for our confirmation form. I wrote, it was like, why do you want this? And I said, because my mom is making me. And my mom was fucking furious at me.
But it's the truth. You want me to lie and sin, Mom?
Right? She was just like, absolutely not. You are not putting that down. You have to put something else.
That's so fucking weird.
Right?
It's so weird to see when you grow up adults lying. It seems almost like a kid thing, or at least that was my view of it as a kid. And then you grow up and you hear an instance like that where you're literally lying to priests.
Which like you're not supposed to be doing. Like,
Because that would be embarrassing.
right. Yeah.
Strange.
But I think that's a lot of that stuff is kind of posturing. Like, so yeah, like that's where religion falls for me. I went to Paul VI for 2 years, the Catholic high school, and hated it. Really hated it. I remember freshman year, I got kicked out of religion class because we were talking about abortion. And we had this like decrepit old nun teaching us why it was a sin and why it was wrong. And I raised my hand and I said, what if a woman's raped though? And she said, you make a very good thing out of a bad thing, sweetheart. That's all you have to do. And I said, that's stupid. And she told me to get out. So, but like, that is stupid. Like,
That's that's a weird one. For me, the only weird part comes in to dive into fuck it, why not? Controversial waters, let's go. I only am stuck with the question of when is something alive? Like when does it cross the barrier of identity where it's now a human, right? And from what I've seen in science, we don't have a clear answer. We have a ballpark that we've kind of there's heartbeat now, and so is it heartbeat specifically that now it's a living human? But I don't know. I'm very
I don't know. I feel like you're a human when you're like not inside a thing and not like still having your arms growing out of embryos is how I view it.
Fair enough. There's like some weird transition phase where you're a baby still inside this, I almost said stomach, for practical reasons. Yeah, right? But anyway, moving away from abortion. So have you ever felt a God-shaped hole in your life? Because I've heard that's the theme of our... No?
No, God, no.
That's why you said God, no.
No.
Why do you... I love the idea that you seem to find happiness in like the normal life, right?
Yeah.
Because there was a point in my life where I was trying to search for some higher meaning, higher purpose sort of thing. And then naturally that took me down the road of religion and how that clashes with science, this, that, and the other. And I'm reaching a point nowadays where there seems to be a lot of meaning and joy in just a simple life.
Honestly, yeah. I like hanging out with friends. I like, talking to people, and you can be a good person without religion. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's very weird. And like, I think of like how many kids had been molested by priests. You know what I mean? There's no like, oh, that means you're automatically a good person. Like anytime someone has like I don't know. I was just about to contradict myself. I was going to say, anytime someone has a blanket statement, but like, if you voted for Trump, I think you're an asshole. So like, I have blanket statements as well.
The inner contradictions of the human machine, and somehow we still function.
I guess it's anything where someone's like, that automatically makes that person good. Those are the time of things that I'm like, no, nothing automatically makes someone good.
Aside from being good, right?
Like, be good, that makes you good. Not like going to church makes you a good person. Not going to church doesn't make you a good. You know what I mean? It's just like, just don't be a dickhead.
Right? There's so much simple morality that to guide you through life. Just don't be an ass.
Yeah.
That a lot of those rules apply across cultures throughout the world. The same rules of being an asshole.
You know, I feel like the first time we like talked was because I noticed that you always put away all the books you took off the shelf. And I remember saying to you, like, you know, you're my favorite customer because you put your books away. And like, that's how we started talking. Because like, literally no one does that.
I feel bad. I grab it especially, like, I grab so many books, and I don't want to say that like fucking posturing because I won't read half of them.
No, this motherfucker has like a pile this high every time he grabs
And
it.
a lot of them will just be like, I didn't touch that, but I can't just leave those there.
Because you're not a dickhead. Yeah.
Oh my, I've heard funny measurements of whether you're a good person or not. Do you put your card away at like the shop right? Or do you just kind of leave it in the parking lot? It's weird to think of goodness as a habit.
Yeah, it's like, and like, you know, not to toot your horn too much, but it's like little shit like that. That's like, oh, like you weren't coming up to me to be like, oh, I'm being good and putting these away. You just fucking put them away. And like,
hey, just in case you didn't notice. What was that, virtue signaling?
Yeah, and like, you know, you were just doing it because you didn't want to be a dick. Like, it's not like we were even talking then and you were doing it because, oh, well, I'm kind of friends with this guy. I don't want.
And I know he's looking at me, so I got.
Yeah, like, so we even have. There's this. I don't know if they always come in at night and usually come in during the day. The like very elderly couple that sits in the cafe a lot.
The one who has a big beard. Yeah, Tony and
Ken.
Joe. Ken. Fuck. No, Joe's the other guy who roast with the plays. Yeah.
Oh yeah, God, you do know the regular. Like. She used to work there, and they never put their shit away. And I'm like, motherfucker, you worked here. You don't put it away? Are you kidding me? Like,
when can you start to play? Is there ever a point where we can play the old card?
Right, I guess. Like,
but you grab them. We're too old to grab them.
Exactly. You got it. So. That's funny that you know I feel like the cafe regulars, like the people that sit in the cafe tend to like know the other people in the cafe.
You'll have the extra. It's funny. You'll always have that extrovert in a group. Not always, but you'll have the extrovert in the group that introduces people. And Joe is very much that person who he will come up and just start talking to you. If he sees you there often, he will talk to you. Period.
That man has been coming there since I worked there the first time. And I worked there for 5 years in my 20s. Like, he's got to be.
He's 70s or 80s.
Probably. Yeah, I would say.
And he still works, apparently.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I think he's Lord, but he's there all the time. He's working on a play.
I knew that. Yes. I knew that he worked on a play because he always has his little like file folder. Yeah. It's so weird though. Like there are a certain group of regulars that have been regulars since I worked there when I was 20 years old.
It's funny. We may have seen each other years and years ago because I would go there pretty often as a kid, and always in the manga section.
Aw.
Just grab stuff and sit down. Yeah.
Little baby Alex reading some manga.
Yeah. Back in the days where I would just sit in the aisles. Yeah. Ooh, what are some of your favorite fictions?
So I have a tattoo on my back of a quote, my favorite quote from any book, which is my second favorite book, Perks of Being a Wallflower, which I know is cliche now, but when it was my favorite book, it wasn't so cliche.
I've heard about it. It's like an indie-esque vibe I get
Kinda,
from...
yeah. It was a movie a few years ago, and the movie's actually like I like the book better, but not in a like snobby way. Like it has more, but the movie's like really fucking good, and it's because the author wrote the screenplay.
Thank God, because there are some times where you want to shoot the screenwriter.
Yes. And like, you know, he had to cut out stuff just because like you have to for a movie.
Yeah.
So I was so annoyed because I had this tattoo before the movie came out, and they didn't fucking say like my favorite line. And I was like, no, but it's my favorite line. But so that's one of my favorite books.
Oh wait, what's the quote?
Things change, and friends leave, and life doesn't stop for anybody. and I have it tattooed here. I got it matching with my friend Chris, who was my ex-boyfriend, who I met working at Barnes & Noble the first time. We got matching quotes. He was like one of those guys that was like covered though. So he got it, I think here. And then when he passed away, I got his last tattoo right next to it. So, and I mean, he had a lot of tattoos, so it's a fucking stupid tattoo, but I was like, I'm going to get his last tattoo. And I went to the artist who did it. And his tattoo was a shin bone in a potted plant. So that's next to the quote.
Is there meaning behind it?
Nope. The tattoo artist, I introduced them because it's a guy I've known since kindergarten. We went to kindergarten together. He was like, yeah, I was just drawing some stupid shit. And Chris liked really weird tattoos because he had so many. It was just like no big deal to him. And that was the last one I got. So I got it. I thought that was kind of appropriate. It was like, I just have it right next to there. And then I have my key on my arm, which is from The Magicians.
What? I was looking through the databanks.
Pop culture. It's a book series and it was a TV show on Sci-Fi. And me and my best friend got it. It's more from the show and we didn't really get it because it was like, so in the show, this is called the Unity Key. And it's from our favorite episode where like they're on a quest to get, I forget how many keys. And the Unity Key is all of the friends have to come together. And I realize out of context, this is going to sound fucking stupid, but I promise it's not stupid. It's like a supernatural fantasy show that didn't take itself too seriously. So it was like jokey, but also like could be intense sometimes. Like sometimes it leaned into horror. The conceit of the plot is, all of us, like the characters had been separated all season. Only like these two were together. These three were together over there. Those two were together. They have to do a spell where they all sing David Bowie and Queen's Under Pressure because everyone had to come together in friendship. And my best friend had the idea, and we've been best friends since we were in 8th grade. So she had the idea, and I was like, oh wait, that's fucking perfect for us. Like that really is. And
did you sing the song with her at some point?
We did not sing the song. But one of the actresses who played our favorite character, she saw it on Instagram and like reposted it, and we became friends, and now she's a co-host of my podcast. So
fuck yeah.
That's cool.
It's weird how those relationships in your life end up playing.
Right?
Like you made friends with someone in some obscure manner and you kind of didn't talk to them for a bit, and then in some way it just boom pops back in at the perfect moment.
I mean, I told you, the guy that did the cool art for my horror podcast, like we hadn't really kept in touch. We only knew each other because I was
kindergarten.
I was friends, like, and then, yeah. So
that's so funny to imagine going to a kindergarten class and looking at this little ass kid and just thinking, you're going to be a tattoo artist.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Like he was in a picture on our, like your parents keep that shit sometimes. Like my parents had my kindergarten picture up on the wall and like on the upstairs, and it was,
Uh-huh.
So.
And that's such like now that I've met more tattoo artists, I recognize the stereotype isn't super true, but I imagine the like gritty tattoo artist, badass biker sort of guy.
Yeah, no.
And then you look at a little kid and think, you're going to grow up to be that. That is so fucking weird to look at kids and recognize that every adult that has ever lived was once like that little cute ass kid.
Now you sound stoned.
Yeah. I am at a natural baseline of semi-stoned at all time. No, but seriously, to this so extreme, but to think you look at it like a Hitler, right? Like, that was a cute little kid. You look at like a Gandhi, like, that was a little kid.
I mean, yeah.
Fucking weird.
Wait, do you have any tattoos?
Yes, I got this one.
Oh, fucking duh. I meant like any that I can't see. Now, okay.
This is the first one I got, and
wait, that's One Piece, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes, I got it right.
See, you're cool. You know stuff. I gotta up my knowledge. But yeah, this was my Jesus as a kid. What?
I love that. When did you get it?
November or October of last year.
Okay, yeah, I got this last year. I haven't had this one that long either.
It's cool especially to have it on your forearm, so you can just look down and look at it and be reminded at any time.
Yeah, like the two on my shoulder blade, I kind of like forget. There's been times when I've gotten out of the shower and been like, wait, what the fuck's on my back? Like I see in the mirror and I'm like, what is that?
I get some dirt on my back. Oh
no. So and I was like, because that's like a very big step, like having it here as opposed to the two there. Like I wasn't nervous about getting a tattoo. It was just like, what if I don't like this? And then it's like,
Then you have to look at it all this. Oh, that is dude. Fuck getting a discount tattoo. That has always been like a fear. Like, I need to know exactly what I want. It will be on me forever.
Like, what if like that came out and like you didn't like the way it looked, and you were like, oh, this actually
And
doesn't look that cool.
I like to. I'm a compassionate sort of person. I'm not saying that as a good or bad thing. I just feel bad if I make someone feel bad. And so the tattoo artist he put the stencil on my arm, and I'm like, oh, it's like the slightest degree off, but I feel bad. I don't want to bother him to do it again. But like, no, it's gonna be on my arm my whole life.
Yeah, I was like, please tell me you said something.
Yeah, I did.
Good.
But then he did it again. I'm like, it's still off a little bit. Like, no, I gotta fucking tell him. And there was like 40 minutes of just slight twist, erase, retrace the whole thing. Well, I'm like, I have to.
No, I'm kind of the same way. I'm like very awkward about that shit because it's like, oh, I don't want to like piss him off.
Yeah, exactly. Especially since he's about to do a tattoo on my arm.
The tattoo artist is the same guy that's done all of them. And because we've known each other forever, he's like, when I got the femur, that's like literally right on where my shoulder blade ends. So like I knew that was gonna hurt. Mm-hmm. And I was like, just so you know, I had an edible before this. He was like, that's fine. He was like, I don't care. He's like, I'm supposed to yell at people when they do that, but it's you and you'll be a baby if you did not have an edible. So it's fine.
When you have a good relationship with a tattoo artist, that is the best. Do you guys talk shit while he's giving the tattoo?
Yeah. Like, well, he'll always be like, when he was doing this, he was like, I forgot that you're not actually that big of a baby as I remember you being with tattoos. And I was like, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. Because like the only this wasn't, it's not that much work. The only thing that hurt was like the white, because he had to go over it a bunch of times. That like really fucking hurt. And it was like, because it was you have all the details on that. It's like when they're going over a spot where they already went over, but it's like with something else that like hurt. But even that, this is small, and it was like,
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank God the guy who did the work on me, place called, I think, Aquavalve. He had this antiseptic, mildly numbing agent when he would like spray to clean it, and it was the slightest bit of like it still hurt like a bitch sometimes. It's weird that you can take that pain for like hours.
Right? Like people who have like these big pieces like here, I'm always like, fuck.
How? It was one session? One?
Right.
You have those crazy motherfuckers like 12 hours that was we took a few half-hour breaks.
I had an ex-boyfriend that was like, he would do like full sessions of like full pieces and like, he would come home and the thing would be like filling up with blood. Like but yeah, some people, I don't know. We have ours, but like some people like really get into like the pain aspect. I think it's like almost like
masochistic.
Yeah. Like, because I remember like when I was stoned and I was getting the thing, because that like did hurt, but because I was stoned, I was able to be like, the pain's over there. And I'm here, and the pain's just over. And like I kept thinking of it that way. And I remember I made my best friend go in with me, and he was like, "How you doing?" And I was like, "It's okay. The pain's like over in the corner." And he was like, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about." Like, it was like whatever works.
That is the perfect descriptor. Every now and then I can see the writer in you come out in your description. It's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but yes, it's like that is the way to describe being on an edible around someone sober.
Right, yeah. Say, especially when the other person's sober, they're just like, all right, yeah.
Yep, pat you on the head. Oh.
I feel like you're probably better. I feel like you probably weren't a baby about that though. Your tattoo.
Define being a baby.
I don't know. You seem like you seem tough, so I feel like
that's good. So, sometimes it's hard to tell. I don't know if I'm just too critical on myself or if I am kind of tough. Because sometimes I'm like, I was being a bitch. It hurt too much, but getting into the conversation with the guy was really helpful because he talked essentially for the entirety of the tattoo.
Yeah.
And being able to just focus on that, like you're saying, to leave the pain somewhere else. Mm-hmm.
That's funny. I work out with a trainer over Zoom. Mm-hmm. And I like that he'll talk and like tell stories as I'm like, because for me, I'm like, even if the thing is like hurting and I'm sweating or whatever, I'm like listening to his story and it like helps me like, oh, I did this set already. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm done the set now.
That's
What?
Oh God, you know what? Since you ask, I'll tell you. the thought came into my head. It's like, yeah, if you're having sex and you have to kind of poop, you can kind of put that to the side because you're so focused on the moment. It can,
I mean, yes.
And then afterwards, you're like, oh, run or if you're getting a cramp, it's incentive to stop. I was actually a personal trainer before, and I was reflecting back on it now, I was too much of the drill sergeant mentality, like fucking just gonna woo. Like I would get people really pumped during the workout, but eventually it's not for longevity for most people. You don't want to push it to the limit all the time.
God, I imagine you being like the nicest personal trainer.
I imagine I was hype in a kind way.
Okay.
Like I wasn't like, you piece of shit. Pick up your. I wasn't demeaning people while they, but I would be like I would be that guy in the gym who's screaming like, and their adrenaline pumping. But I noticed with some of the people that just having a conversation with them while they're working out, they would fly through workouts they would never do if we weren't having that conversation. And I began to notice the importance of enjoying your workout.
Yeah.
We have a strong culture in America of push it to the limit, no pain, no gain. Like you have to hurt. That's the way to do it. And then you'll see those people on January, the flood of new year, new me. And they'll stay there for a month, but they push too hard because
it's not sustainable, right?
Exactly.
It has to be sustainable. And like my trainers, but like I all weekend I was like binging this very bad show on Netflix, but it's a lesbian vampire show, so I wanted to love it, called First Kill, but it wasn't that good. I was like binging that, but also doing shit for my podcast at my computer. And so the way my room's very small. Mm-hmm. My computer's here, my TV's here. So I was like this, like almost all weekend. And I realized that like my back just hurt from it because also I'm old. And my trainer's cool. Like I was like, hey, like I still want to work out, but can we do like easy shit today because my back? And I told him and he was like, yeah. He was like, we'll do restorative. He was like, Ian, we're not training for the Olympics. It's fine. Like, yeah. And he had me do like stretches and like, stuff like that. And it actually, we finished and I was like, oh, my back feels way less stiff now. I feel way better.
Fuck yeah.
It worked, you know? Mm-hmm.
Oh, yoga. Have you gotten into...
Yeah. I'm pretty bad at being flexible though. Are you flexible? I feel like you're in good shape.
I'm decently flexible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm like so surprisingly bad at it. Like even if you looked at me, you're like, he's not flexible. It's worse than you even thought. Like,
can you touch the toe?
I barely
Can you touch your knee?
Yeah, I can touch my knee. I can like kind of touch my... No, I'm not going to... I was like...
I was kind of curious for a second. Well, I'm like, okay, fair enough. Mm-hmm.
Like whenever we do the like spread your legs out and try to reach, I can never actually reach fully. Feels like my body's like atrophying. I don't fucking know.
Got you. Now I'm thinking about...
When were you a trainer?
Few years. Pretty much out of high school. I didn't want to go to college. I didn't see a degree that clicked with me. And I was thinking, in this waiting period while I'm figuring out what the fuck I want to do with my life, what would be a decent way to make money that I can actually enjoy for a bit? And eventually I fell on personal training, got a quick certificate. So it was pretty much right at high school, maybe 2018, 2019. Okay. Only did it for about 2 years. Yeah, it took a while because there was definitely the part of me that was urging to go to college. Here, I'll tell you the thing about me for a second. So I fucked my leg up when I was in high school. I was 16. Okay. And prior to that, I had these dreams, military dreams for like the longest time. And that was the life purpose. Like I said earlier, I was hunting for purpose in the life. Yeah. And then that blew the foundation out of what I wanted to do with my future. So I was just kind of the stereotypical lost young man. And I guess it was almost irrelevant for me to say that, but I kind of just wanted to. And then eventually that led on personal training, and I was hunting for a while, and then podcasting clicked. I was like, oh,
but did you always work out when you were younger too?
I was pretty fit.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is I just enjoy so many physical activities, whether that's dancing, hiking. I'm big into dancing. Hiking, martial arts, things along those lines. Mm-hmm.
So you're saying we'll have to go dancing sometime?
Dance. Do you know any good places nearby?
God, no. I'm like, I'll bring you to a gay bar.
In Florida, I met some friends while I was in Florida doing podcasting stuff. And they told me, you got to come to this bar. It's a part drag bar, but there's a really mixed crowd there. And I was there. I was dancing. I was really stressed about, like, I want to find someone beautiful to dance with. But I ended up I noticed I'm going down this rabbit hole of ruining my own night by focusing too much on that.
Okay, yeah.
It's like, oh, I'll just find someone. I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. I'm just going to enjoy myself and dance. So I have my eyes closed and I'm dancing. And I feel someone dancing up on me. And I'm like, oh, cool. And I'm not going to lie. I was looking to be dancing with women. I open my eyes and it's this guy. And I'm like, I'm not soup. I'm not really upset about this. I was surprised almost.
Look at you. I thought the story was good. I thought you were going to be like, and then I was like, I'm impressed. Look at you.
I was, he kind of wanted to accelerate, but I was like, nah, this is just, we'll dance for now, but this is fun. But now it was nice. It was eye-opening. It's good to see.
Nice. I like that. Look at you. Yeah, all my straight, like, I live with two different straight guys in New York, and both of them like loved going with me to like the gay bars. One of them met two different girlfriends at gay bars. One of them actually met his future wife. She was a bartender at the bar we went to, and she like one day was like, "Oh, you guys are so cute. How long have you been together?" And I was like, "Oh no, he's straight." And like I knew he had a big crush on her. I thought she just like maybe didn't like him or something.
You with the hookup.
And then she said that, and I was like, "Oh no, he's straight." And she was like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "Yeah, you should like talk more." Like, and now they're married. So,
God damn.
yeah.
Oh, there's a great TED Talk. It's called Lollipop Moments or something like that. This guy walking through a college campus, people were waiting in line for this, that, and the other. And he noticed these two people very awkwardly standing by one another. While they're waiting, they were bored. And he walks up and he just gives the guy a lollipop. And he says, "Give her that lollipop and introduce yourselves." And she was there and they saw it. And then he just walked away and kept doing his thing. And it turns out years later, he's given a speech and these people come up afterwards. He didn't remember who they were. He didn't remember this interaction at all. And they're like, "Yeah, you gave us a lollipop all those years ago. We ended up getting married." From that small interaction, that really hits me how often, or the possibility for a tiny interaction to make this huge life-changing impact on someone.
Yeah. It is weird to think about that stuff. Like, yeah. I mean, my parents, they got engaged on their second date and they are still married for like 50 some years.
I'm sorry, rewind.
Right? Isn't that crazy? My dad told her he wanted to marry her and she said, "Okay, let's get married." And like they dated for 3 more months, but like under the assumption that we will be getting married. And then they got married by Justice of the Peace and they're in their 70s and still married. Right? Isn't that fucking weird?
That is fucking weird.
Yeah. I like sometimes when I went to school for writing, when I would write about it, I would lie because the first few times I wrote that, people didn't believe me. And so I would like, all right, to avoid people saying they don't believe that they got engaged, I would like say after 3 months they got married, which isn't actually a lie, but they got engaged on their second date. Yeah. And like, right, if someone did that, I'd be like, "You're fucking stupid." Like, I still think that's fucking stupid because like you don't know someone that well, but it turned out well for them.
Yeah. It's so funny to see that sometimes real life is crazier than the books or the stories.
Yeah.
And you see something, you're like, "Nah, it's just a movie. That wouldn't happen in real life."
Right, yeah.
And then you dig a little deeper into reality and you're like, "Oh, reality's fucking weird a lot of the time."
Have you ever watched the sitcom Happy Endings by any chance?
Mm-mm.
I expected you. I was to say you're not gonna. I'm like all I do is talk about TV and movies. It's like a very like silly. It's like something nice to watch while you're stoned. It's got like a couple of like famous comedy people in it, but there's like a bit where they're like at the movies and they're watching a rom-com and Elijah Cuthbert's character is like laughing. She's like, "Oh, the main character is so stupid. She didn't realize her arm caught on fire from the candle." And then they cut to their friend on a date and her arm has caught on fire because she didn't realize it was next to the candle. And I always think of like that with what you're saying. It's like they're laughing, saying that that's like unbelievable because it's a movie they're watching. They cut to their friend who's doing the exact same fucking thing. And I always think that's pretty clever because like you said, sometimes it's those stupid shit you see that you're like, that doesn't happen. And sometimes it does.
Ooh, now I'm curious. Do you have any other examples in your life aside from your parents? Because that is there were so many themes, quick tangent for a second, in older movies of people who they saw each other, they were just on one date, or I saw this girl and we just had a conversation like, "I'm going to marry that girl."
Yeah, right. And like now it's like, that's stupid.
Like, you're going to stalk me and kill me, aren't you?
Right, yeah.
And it's not that long ago either that it changed so drastically.
But right, like I feel like if someone said that to me on a second date,
I'd be like, "Well, I'm not seeing you again."
"Can you relax?" Like,
yeah. There would have to be such an amazing movie-esque spark
Yeah, like I can't I can't even imagine what it would go into, like a second date where someone says that to
And
me,
you're just like, yes.
and I'm like, yes, you're right, we are. Like maybe you or I might say that, but thinking like, nope, I'm never calling this person again, but I don't want to tell them.
I don't want to
that.
get stabbed in the next. Yeah.
So I will just say yes and then block their phone number.
Fair enough.
I'm trying to think. I don't know. How about you?
Crazy movie-esque moment in my life. There's always the time. This is the easy one. Hold on. I'll give me 1 second of silence. Now the pressure's blocking my mind, so I'll go with the easy one for a moment. Obviously, my leg getting
That's fair. Yes.
You know the Hobby Lobby?
Yeah.
That's right. I was literally there while it was getting constructed. And with a friend, we're just fucking around. Construction sites were like our playgrounds when we were kids. We would always go and just climb around, see what there is, throw things around. And going there, we're about to leave and go smoke. We're like, all right, we're done with this. And my friend sees the forklift. Ooh, he goes over. The keys are still in the forklift. And keep in mind, the Hobby Lobby is fully made. The husk is completed. There's nothing inside the store. So it's this huge store, completely flat ground and open space. And so naturally, we begin joyriding.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, and I just thought of another crazy moment in my life while I'm talking about this. And so we're riding. We're taking turns. And we're about to leave. And I say, no. We have to do one more ride. You just finished recording me while I was driving, so I want to record you while you're driving so we can both have videos of ourselves, right? And it's that one fateful decision. We're about to leave, and like, no, fucking one more. And so I'm standing on the forklift while my friend's driving, right? You imagine the seat is here where I'm sitting. There's a step up to the forklift here. I'm standing on that step. My arm is looped around. Imagine there's a metal bar, 4 metal bars here holding up this tiny roof. My arm's looped around this. I'm standing on that, so I'm hanging off of the forklift recording. We're driving. He's driving pretty normally, and we're going straight towards the support beam. And I'm thinking, nah, we're not in line to hit that support beam. We're getting a little closer. Nah, he sees. He's gonna turn. Like, he knows. We got a little closer. No, he's gonna turn. And then this moment of blank silence in my head while I'm about 2 seconds from impact, and it just clicks that he's to the right of me. So from his perspective, no, we're good. We have room. And so I jump off, and my leg gets caught between the bar I had my arm looped around and the support beam on the forklift, and boom, it just got fucked up right around here, and they had to amputate it. And there were so many other times in our lives we did stupid adrenaline pumping things and nothing.
Right,
we never got hurt. My worst injury prior to that was like I fractured my pinky before.
Yeah.
And then it just hits you the reality of something so like ultimate and just it was just a normal day, just doing what we normally do.
That's wild. Yeah. Shit. How did your friend react?
So initially he thought I just got a cut on my leg from jumping off.
Oh, okay.
And so he sees a bit of blood and he's like, oh, okay, I'm going to pick you up and we're going to go home and patch it up because I don't live very far from it. And it hurt like hell when he picked me up. And I was also very heavy. So he kind of dropped me while I was yelling like, put me the fuck down.
Yeah.
And then he saw like, oh no. You ever see a video where a limb is completely sideways? Oof. So imagine from here down, it's just sideways. Ugh. Oh yeah, the bone was sticking out. Ugh. And he saw, it's like the femur you have. Well, no, the femur's I think thigh bone, but something like that. Yeah, just shrapnel that's sticking out the side. And he sees it, and it's just, we were pretty freaked out a second ago, and now it's full blown. Wait, what the fuck?
God. Did you talk to him?
Oh yeah, he's like my brother. We're like, yeah, because I'm fucking. It's funny, a lot of people ask me that, but it was innocent mistake. And it's like, oh no, I just thought we had room.
Well, dickhead, I'm going to tell you again that also shows that you're a good person, that you like don't like harbor, that you should like still be cool, and that you both should still be cool. That's a credit to you as a person.
I am happy to hear that. It's weird. It just seems so natural. Like, it was just an accident.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I guess also like with time, you get telling those stories, you get, right. With time, it heals it as well. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get like emotionally heals it.
Yes. Now it's just a fun story to tell.
Yeah.
It's not like a tear up, a sad stare off into the distance moment of like 1,000-yard stare.
And you said you were what, 16?
16 at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was an interesting school year because that happened during the summer. Like a month before we went into the school year.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, that was so. There were some funny moments that came along with that for sure. Oh, I had this one friend who we always would bust each other's balls. And it was the first day of me coming into school. And I'm on the crutches, like those forearm, I call them polio crutches, before I have the prosthetic. And I'm walking in, and a lot of people heard throughout school, even though I don't have a big social media presence, somehow the news spread, and that was my 15 minutes of fame. And I walk in, and my friend sees me, and we both just stare for a moment of silence, and he just starts dying laughing. And we both start laughing. It's so weird how a human can process something like that. It wasn't like are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help? There were a lot of people like that, and that's appreciated too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then there's that one guy who's like, and
funny.
there was no malice in it. It was
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was your friend like? Did he have more trouble with like processing it, or was he like?
It's hard to tell. There was definitely struggle with processing that. There was a lot of emotional pain wrapped up in that, without a doubt. There was a lot of he blaming himself. But eventually it seems like he's healed from that. We had a tight-knit group of friends, so they kind of came together to repair the nest.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, my stories that I'm going to tell is also a traumatic one.
Yay!
And,
Trauma.
It's funny because no, it's not funny, but my best friend and I went through this together, and he definitely processed it differently than I did. So the ex that passed away that I have the matching tattoos with, we were living together in Brooklyn, and we found him dead in his bed, which as you also can pinpoint the worst day of your life, that, you know what I mean? Like you can say like, oh no, that was the worst day of my life, right? Like you can say that and like not be exaggerating. And I always tell people, well, like one thing is I can pinpoint the worst day of my life.
Yeah, a very clear dot.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yep.
Anytime I'm like, this sucks, I'm like, well, no
Oh,
one's
wait,
dead. Like,
yeah.
right?
Very real talk, yeah.
Like even like, I mean, I still get depressed and shit, but like I'll still remind myself, well, no one's dead. Like, well, it's not as bad as that time.
Yeah, you have a reference point now.
And like I don't know that a lot of people have that right reference point of being like, no, this was the worst day of my life. So like, this bad thing doesn't seem as bad suddenly.
Interesting. I maybe I should do that more.
It doesn't always work. I'm just saying that like, I'll still be depressed, but I'm like, well, but it's not as bad.
Like I made it through that sort of thing.
Right, yeah. And like that was it felt like a movie. Like I remember I kept thinking like I woke up in something different. Like it was weird because he had been in his room and he hadn't like texted his mom back in 24 hours. And so she texted me. And so we went in his room because he was very private. Like he would keep his door shut a lot. And we had been broken up for a while. We like stayed good friends. And so we went in his room and like, I was talking about this with someone recently and like a dead body looks like a dead body. Like it looks like a thing from a movie almost. And they said he must have died like before he even like at like 8 p.m. the day before. And like when you touch a dead body, it's very hard. So we called 911 and they're like, you should do CPR. And I'm like, he's dead. And they're like, how do you know? I'm like, he is hard. Like the body feels, it's cold and it's hard. He's dead. I'm looking at a dead body. And so they were like, okay, just leave. And like, it was terrible. Like the police showed up and the first thing they asked me is if he was a drug addict. And like, definitely because it's like, oh, these two gay guys, like whatever. And like, he was a diabetic and like something happened with that. Like he was a diabetic with like the, some people have like the pump. But he was like you though, very fit, like very, very fit. So he like took care of himself. It's just, that shit can still happen. Right. Yeah. And like, I always think of like how mad I was at that officer because our buzzer was broken. So not only did we call 911, I had to wait for them to get there and then go down and let them in and then bring them up. And they stopped in the doorway to ask me, they're like, well, is he a drug addict? And I was like, what? And the other police officer was like, we should just go in first. And he was like, well, I'm just asking some questions. And I was like, he's dead, so I don't really know. Like, don't be an asshole. Again, and like, it was just like a really terrible day. And it's funny, like, yeah, like now it's like, yeah, just like, you can tell the story, right? You're just like, yeah, this is
How
like,
long ago was it?
God, I think it was 2015. So that's 7 years ago. Yeah, it'll be 7 years ago on July 5th, actually.
Oh, it's not funny, but also 7 years ago, roughly.
Oh, really? Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. July 6th. I always think it's the 5th, but I always think it's because it happened after a 4th of July party, but the 4th of July party wasn't on 4th of July. So yeah, 7 years ago on July 6th, and like there one time at happy hour in New York, I will say like so we left that apartment because neither of us, me and my roommate, didn't want to stay there, right? And we couldn't afford an apartment for the 3 bedrooms with 2 of us. The like management company was really awful. They're like, well, you signed a lease, so you have to stay. We were like, what? Like, what do you mean we have to stay? Someone is dead. Like, that's a pretty good reason. That's right.
That's a pretty.
That's not like gotta go. Like, can't afford. It's like someone died, so don't want to be here. And I went to grad school with a friend who was a lawyer, and she was like, I told her, and I was like, what can I do? And she was like, well, what you're gonna do is, I'm going to type up an email and you're going to email it to them and they will know it's from a lawyer and they will let you out of your lease. And literally that's exactly what happened.
Oh, beautiful.
I didn't add anything but like my name to the email she typed up. And like 10 minutes later, they emailed me to say, so sorry about your loss. Let us know when you're leaving and we'll pick up the keys.
Yeah, right. Like, just like,
all right. It worked.
Yeah.
And like, I remember like when I moved, to everyone's credit, like, from working at BuzzFeed, all of my BuzzFeed friends had posted, like, this person needs help moving. They went through this shitty thing. We had a lot of people help us to move for free. It was very, like, felt very loved. Granted, it was like we both moved back with our parents for the summer because neither of us wanted to live in that apartment. And we were able to break the lease, but we needed to find a new one. So, like, apartment hunting we are in South Jersey to New York is, like, not fun because you just gotta, like, go up for the day. But so we found one. I remember I was at happy hour in New York with some gay friends, and one of them, who I don't think really knew, was like, wait, you had friends help you move? That's unfair. I always have to pay for moving companies. And I was like, all you have to do is find your friend dead in his bed, and people will help you. And like 2 friends laughed, and then everyone else was like, what? And I was like, it's funny. You can laugh about it. I'm allowed to make these jokes now.
Yeah, right. Oh my God. Some of the best, I hear this and it's so fucking true. Some of the best humor you will find walks that dark edge of like, yeah.
And especially if it's your own trauma, like, you
literally
joke about it. Like,
oh, you're giving me flashbacks to leg jokes I made.
But like, you know what I mean? And it makes it like, also kind of like lightens it for everyone else, so like everyone doesn't feel like tense about like, ooh, they're talking about the thing. Or, like, ugh.
You're right. Don't make it like a Voldemort where we can't talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm very big on like just talk about the trauma, like talk about it, and like, okay. But again, some people do deal right. Like maybe some people that would be like bringing it up. Like someone who went through something like might be like, I don't because it reminds me too much. And,
it's literally too overwhelming.
Yeah, that's valid.
Fair enough.
Because I think that's more how my friend is. Like he's more like, which
fair,
that's valid. Yeah. I just find like, and I guess you agree too. Like, it helps, right? I do think it helps.
I've definitely found it to be quite healing at times.
Yeah. So that was my grim story that felt like a movie because that very much, and you probably felt this way times 10. Like, felt very like. You're not in your body when shit like that's happening.
Like this isn't happening.
Right? Yeah, like you're like watching it happen almost.
That hits me with the quote you have on your back. The life goes on sort of thing. You still have to go and open the door for the police officers.
And like it's the fact that I got that quote with someone who then died is so weird. Like because it like is relevant to that. Yeah, like you said, like I still had to fucking answer the door and let them in, like and shit like that. And like I had to our super happened to be there that day and walked by me and saw us like crying outside the building and was like, "Yeah," like it wasn't like we were friends. He just like saw us and clearly was like, "Well, I gotta say something." He was like, "Are you okay?"
Not just walk by like,
Yeah. He was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, well, I have to tell you that our other roommate's dead." And he was like, "Okay, well, let me know if you need anything." And just like, what, like very much was like, I don't know how to do this.
yeah.
Which like I get because he didn't fucking know me.
yeah, right.
Like,
And there's a weird artificialness of saying sorry for your loss, but like I don't really know.
yeah, yeah.
It's like I'll just leave you to your grieving. That's
Which like fair.
yeah.
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 But yeah, that's like I always say that like that very much felt like a movie because it felt like, well, like you said, it's like you get very like, this can't happen to me, and I'm sure a lot of people who've been through shit like feel that way, right?
Yeah. It
like that's,
takes
like,
a while
common.
to sink in. The
Yeah.
emotions almost don't know what to do with it. And you hit this like, were you numb for a little bit? Where it's like, being.
Yeah.
It's like those movie scenes where the character is walking with 1,000-yard stare after they see something traumatic. And it sounds like everything's in the background while people are talking to them.
So to bring it back to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, one of the best episodes of that show, which I don't enjoy watching, but it is a very good episode, which if you never watch a show, but this sounds interesting, you can watch it by itself. It's her mom has cancer, and literally there's the episode called The Body in season 5. She walks into like the living room and her mom had come back from a date and she sees that the date brought her flowers and she's like joking about her mom getting flowers and turns around and her mom's laying on the couch and she's like, "Oh, Mom, what happened?" And then you see her face drop because her mom had an aneurysm and died. And the whole episode is literally just about them dealing with that. And they do that so many times with Buffy's character where like there's a moment when the EMT's talking to her and you're focusing on her and the EMT is taller than her and he's out of focus and you can't hear what he's saying because they make it so low in background and she's just giving that stare. And that's realistic, right? That is what happens when you go through shit like that. It's like you kind of just like tune it all out and you're just like, fuck, And that episode, I remember my roommate's family came and picked us up in New York and drove us because we're both from this area. And like when I got home, I watched that episode of Buffy because like I was like, oh, like Buffy's my hero. Like I can watch her go through this and like feel a little bit more.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Comforted,
That makes. I've noticed there's a story that people put around stories, fictional stories, that they're unimportant. They're kind of background, just entertainment. That's lighthearted. But there is something. Like if you ever read the Bible and you read Jesus' story, but you don't read it as if you're reading the super sacred text, you just kind of think, damn, this is a good story. Like this is an interesting, and there's something that's hard to put my finger on about the importance of stories. It's hard to measure exactly how important, like for me, my One Piece, for you, Buffy.
Yeah.
How it actually helps you in life, and it's not just something to when you're done work,
Right.
you just can
like,
smoke
people
and
can
watch
shrug
it.
them off, but like I feel like there is like an importance to storytelling, and that's of course there is like I just want to turn my brain off and put this.
There's
on,
that.
and that's
There's
fine
that too for sure.
Yeah. Like if I'm stoned, I'll put on like American Dad.
Oh,
like,
it's like
it's just like stupid funny. But yeah, there's like. That's like, I don't know. That's why I have my podcast, because I always wanted to talk about the importance of that show to me specifically, and then I branched out but whatever. But I shrugging off that kind of like, my dad's definitely one of those people. Like he'll be like, "Oh, you and your mom love all that," and I'm like, it's like that's normal to.
My dad's the same. He's also Puerto Rican.
Well, my mom is a Puerto Rican one, and my dad is very white.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, dickhead! You didn't mention you were also Puerto Rican.
Yeah, I know. I was kind of laughing when I said it. I recognize it now. I'm also half Slovak, half Puerto Rican.
So you're half-seas like me.
Yes, exactly.
Wait, how's your Spanish?
Muy mal. I have un poquito.
Pero same.
Yeah.
When my grandma was alive, she used to babysit me all the time. My parents worked, so like it was a little better. So it was my mom's mom, and she would mostly speak to me in Spanish. But then when she passed away, like my mom doesn't really, she speaks it with like her sister and like her family members that are her age, but not with me really. Like we'll do like little things they'll say in Spanish. But yeah,
Yeah.
Don't you always kind of wish, like, it's like, yeah, well, we are Puerto Rican. We should know some Spanish.
I feel you. Duolingo, if you ever want to, like...
I've heard that it's like really good.
It's effective.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I lived in Puerto Rico for a little bit, and... which is funny to pair that with me not really knowing Spanish. Turns out Google Translate, it can be an amazing crutch, and I definitely use it as such, but there was a little bit learned. Oh, no, but Duolingo is super effective, and just... I'm going to make an advertisement for it. Just a few minutes a day can make a world of impact.
It's not a sponsored ad.
No. Although if you want to, I wouldn't be upset.
Yeah, that's funny. One of my good friends in New York, her dad's Dominican and her mom's Puerto Rican, and they had recently moved back to Puerto Rico because they like owned a small house there, and they decided to leave the Bronx and go there. And she said when she went to see them, she was like, you know, I was like, oh, because she's fluent. Like she grew up and both her parents were always speaking it at home. And in New York, there's a lot of people who do speak Spanish. Mm-hmm. And so she was like, you know, I was like so glad, like I get to flex how good I am at Spanish. She was like, everyone kind of mostly spoke English to me, like when they saw me.
Especially when you stay by the city, that is also one of my saving graces. The people in line or in the bus who would kind of walk up like, all right, let me help you. Like El Nickel.
Hey, I will tell you, and you will also be impressed. So I worked at the Museum of Sex for a full year in New York. It's a stupid job. It wasn't, but like it is a museum, and they have a gift shop. The first floor is a gift shop, and they sell like sex toys and stuff. And I am very gay, so I like didn't know. Like most of them were geared towards straight people, right? Like straight couples or straight women. I sold Kegel weights to a woman who only spoke Spanish, and I was able to tell her in Spanish about them. Isn't that kind of impressive?
How? What? Okay. How in English? What did you say to her?
Well, also, so
the weight's good. Never mind. She
didn't know what they did, and then her friend was trying to tell her, and then her friend talked to me, and like everyone there was like, it was like there was me and one other girl that like she was fluent, she wasn't there, and then it was me, and I was like, I can't do this. So then I'm like talking to them, and the friend she's with is definitely like giggling a little bit because my Spanish is not that good. But I remember like being able to explain it to her, and like I don't think I do this now. This was a few years ago. Yeah, I don't think my Spanish, like, it's gotten worse as I've gotten older because I use it less, but, like, I was able to explain to her, and I remember the point when I was like, I don't know how to explain this to her in English, because she was like, well, no, she said, in Spanish, she said, I'm too tight, I can't have now I'm mixing it up, Jesus Christ. I'm too tight, so I can't use the big ones. And I didn't know how to explain that the big ones stay in easier because they're bigger. The small ones are harder because you have to
squeeze.
Yeah. So like and I was like, I don't know how to explain that. Like, because she should know why that like she has a vagina. And I remember being like, just looking at her friend, and then her friend saying something to her in Spanish, her being like, oh, okay. And so she bought them, but.
Were they the weights where you put it in and you can attach it to a separate weight?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've heard people doing ridiculous weights, like 100 pounds.
Right.
Jesus Christ, what are you holding in there?
Listen, I'm impressed.
Yeah, no, 100 pounds.
But yeah, it was like I think it was like two of them, and one of them was like the weight that hung out, I guess.
That is surprisingly, as I'm doing the podcast and I've got more involved in the podcasting world, I had to cancel one of my episodes because of sex topics, because of BDSM and the conversations along those lines. And the person who I spoke to said it was hurting their business.
Oh, shit, really?
Yeah, and I talked to someone who was also, they had to, I won't get into the specifics, but they also had to, it hurt them business-wise by doing a podcast relating to that sort of subject. And we talked about Trump. I've talked about Trump with people who I've talked about religion, and those are the two, you don't talk about religion and politics, and no problem with those, period. But apparently BDSM is like,
People get really hung up about sex stuff.
Mm-hmm. Because it's so, there's the elementary school kid in me that finds it difficult to have a conversation in a professional manner about a coochie weight.
Right, yeah.
Like keeping a straight face.
I mean, like, I feel like I got better at it from working at the Museum of Sex. Like, I remember my roommate was my manager. He, I was looking for a second job. I was working at the school I graduated from, but it was only part-time. He was like, do you want to work at the Museum of Sex with me? He was like, I mean, I'd be your boss, which is, not supposed to be allowed, but I don't care. And I was like, yeah, sure. And our first big staff meeting, he was talking, and I had only been there for, 2 weeks. and I forget what it was like. So
Guys haven't been labeling the dildos properly.
So it was like something like, you have to recognize these are the toys for outer stimulation and these are the toys for inner stimulation. And I was like, I have a question. I'm very gay. I don't understand what that means. And he was like, fuck, you don't, do you? And I was like, nope. So he had to like get out a whiteboard and draw me a diagram of a vagina and like say, this toy goes here. This toy goes here. And I was like, all right, thanks. And I would have people like, my boss at the school I worked at, she was like, wait, does that mean you can get me some free things? And I was like, yeah, what do you want? And I was like, what do you want? Do you want something exterior or interior? She's like, wait a minute, never mind. I can't have this conversation with you.
When you get so professional about it.
It like caught her off guard that I was immediately like, oh, which do you want?
Because
She's
it's
like,
such a 0 and 1 word to use as a, would you like exterior, interior, like you're getting something for the house, like
Listen,
a cabinet put in?
I want everyone to have a good sex life or good masturbation time, you know?
Yes.
Like I once, my aunt actually was like, because we would get them for free. I had no use for them because they were all for vaginas, right? So I would give them to people for free because whatever.
That's the next movement. Equality in the sex toy,
I'd
right?
be like, do you want this? Which one do you want? And I gave one to my aunt. She gave it back to me. She was like, never mind. I can't use this. You gave this to me. And
For
I don't
my
want it."
nephew.
She was like, never mind. I didn't even open it. She was like, I put it in my closet and never looked at it as you gave it to me. So take it back.
Because you're just going to use and just think of your net.
I don't know. For me, I'm just like, no, but it's
Nah,
just
here you
like
go.
the fucking
You've been
vibrator,
desensitized.
Yeah,
It's just-
yeah. Like I was like happy to give my aunt one. So I'm like, she's older. She probably never had one before. But yeah, she gave it back to me. She was like, that's weird. I can't.
Goes and buys the model from someone else.
She even said, she was like, don't tell your mother. And I was like, I won't. It's fine. I don't care.
I hope
Like-
somehow, some way your mom watches this. Get together for Christmas or whatever.
My mom definitely like, it's weird. My mom is a reason why I'm like better about sex. Because my dad was very uptight. Like, I mean, he comes from like a super, I mean, like I said, they didn't let him listen to like rock music. So like, they definitely weren't talking about sex. And my mom and her family is more like open about that. And my mom would do it a lot to embarrass my dad. To like, I know you don't want to talk about it. And be very much like, everyone has sex. And that kind of, yeah. And like that kind of like helped. And then working in the Museum of Sex really, like that really desensitized you. Like to clock in, you had to go through the museum and like one of the walls was just like famous porn.
I didn't
Like,
even know that was a museum.
Yeah.
That's
It's on Fifth Avenue.
I'm
New
happy
York.
to hear.
Yeah. And like I remember one of my coworkers were walking in together and she like looks at like the blowjob wall and it's like, you know, different people giving blowjobs. And she was like, you know, our jobs are very different than everyone else's. And I was like, yeah.
I feel like that has to really hit you when you don't even notice it. The one day where you walk by and it's just bzz, background.
Like, yeah, the blowjob wall's background. Like. It's funny because sometimes at Barnes & Noble we'll have people that like get nervous to ask about a sex book, but I'm usually like a pretty good one to be like, I got it, it's fine.
Oh, it's funny. I've been getting into the habit of grabbing like random books from random sections. And I just walking by the romance section, I just grabbed one. And I felt when I was sitting down at the Starbucks, the little Starbucks section, like, ooh, I kind of want to cover it. Like, I don't want people to see. But I'm like, no, it's fucking stupid. Like, be out and fucking proud. Let it.
It's not like you're looking at like fucking like porn.
Just smut, yeah. But even just going through that section, I've been doing the same with the mall, walking to different stores that I would never, like a Victoria's Secret. And I'm like, ooh, this feels like I'm walking to the forbidden territory. We're funny with that.
Well, if you ever need to talk about sex books, I can help you.
I'll keep that in mind. Maybe it has to do with being super Christian as a country.
Yeah.
That Christians don't seem to be very.
I mean, granted, to bring it back to like, I think that's why so many, especially now, are able to be like, ooh, like gay people. And it's like, because they just think of sex when they think of gay people. And it's like, okay, but like, you are straight and you have sex too. Like, that's not like, you know what I mean? Like, but it's like people get so, you're right. It's like the like, we're supposed to not be, but we are, like, you know, like.
We're supposed to not be human, which
Right,
is a weird part of it. But then you have this hilarious, if you ever want to talk about a Freudian leak, right? Where someone's repressing a strong part of their nature so much, but it'll leak out in ways they either don't notice or can't really control, things along those lines. And I've heard that the most watched porn is very often in high Christian areas.
Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah, and it's like, just like be normal. It's fine. Just like you can watch porn. It's fine. Like,
oh God, and then it gets, if you repress it too much, then you get to like the priest.
Yeah,
the dark side.
You know, my grandma, she always would tell the story because my grandma was my Puerto Rican grandma was like super cool. Like I came out and she didn't give a shit. Like she moved here from Puerto Rico and was a hairdresser, so she had gay friends, and so like to her it was like okay,
Life.
yeah. And like she would always tell me this story, and my mom would get mad that she would tell this story that she walked in on a priest and nun on top of a desk in her school together. And she'd always be like, so remember, they have the same thing underneath those dresses that we do. And that's what she would always say about priests.
Oh, that's it. Because you could forget when you see this flashy golden robe. Like, oh, this holy creature. And it's just like if you just put you or me inside the robe, we would also look quite holy and like non-human.
We might look weird.
Fair enough. I may have to change a little, like no tattoo and different hairstyle.
Yeah.
Oh man, talking about the religious world for a second, I went into a monkhood for a very just a day as part of a religious ceremony for someone passing away recently. That's also why I don't really have eyebrows at the moment. I shaved all the face and the hair and things
You
along.
have to shave your eyebrows for that?
Yes. Funny story. I
wasn't going to be rude and ask, but I was wondering that when I first saw you like last week, I was like, wait,
has that always been?
Did they look like that before? I like wasn't sure.
I was kind of looking forward to telling people, and there's been one person who asked. More people ask about my leg than about. But no, funny story. It's the day of the ceremony. And a week before, I already buzzed my hair and shaved my face, but I was holding on to the brows. And it's the morning of, and I just finished shaving my eyebrows, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror like, wow, who are you? Because there's such a staple feature of my face. And as I'm looking at myself in the mirror, my friend calls me, and he's like, hey, man, so I just talked to the monks. We don't have to shave the eyebrows.
Oh, God.
And I just yell, what? And I just hear laughter in the background. His mom was probably like nearby on speaker.
Were you the only one giggling? That did it?
So this is the best part. I'm like, bro, you have to shave your fucking eyebrow. And he's like, nope, not doing them. Good luck. And he kind of just hangs up. And I'm like, fuck. Okay, you're just going to be comic relief for people at the funeral. It'll be nice. It'll be a little bit. And no, he ended up shaving them. He's like, I couldn't fucking leave you hanging like that. I'm like, you're my brother.
That's a good friend. That's a good friend. Yeah.
Oh, but that's
so wait, funny. I do have a fun story from the funeral of my friend.
Silver lining.
The last. So again, I am very gay, but I had sex with a friend who is a lady when I lived in New York after I'd broken up with my ex-boyfriend. It was like we were drunk, and she literally.
You're a little bi.
We love a little. We love telling this story because, like, she told it at her wedding to the table I was at. I was like, these people don't all know me, Amy. And she was like, whatever, it's funny. And she was like, this is a gay guy I had sex with. That's literally how she introduced me at her wedding.
What was the response to the table? Was it just awkward faces?
Well, it was like two people that we were friends with. The rest of them weren't people that I knew. And they were kind of like, do we laugh? Like, what? And then her husband like joked, and he was like, listen, the next time you bring that up, I'm going to fuck Ian just so then I can say I fucked him too. And I was like, what is going on?
That's one of those movie-esque moments. Like, no, real life doesn't have that. Yes, it does.
But so we were both drunk, and like, she was like a friend. Like anytime, especially my first apartment, it was tiny, tiny, tiny. I would just be like, oh, you're my friend. You want to sleep in bed with me? It's fine. So we're in bed, and she...
Just a little friendly cuddle.
And like, we had been friends since high school, like, whatever. And she then was like, we should have sex. And I was like, one, I'm gay, and two, I'm drunk as shit. So like...
Did she just say it? Like, just lie and be like, hey.
And she said, it'll be a funny story. And I was like drunk, and I was like, I mean, if you can get it to work, go ahead. She did, and she did. So at Chris's funeral, we're like at my house. She comes up to me, and she's like, oh, sweetheart, how are you doing? And I was like, And she went, here, hold my hand. And I held her hand, and she went, you want me to make you laugh? And I was like, what? She was like, I came when we had sex. And I was like, excuse me? She was like, it wasn't you, though. It was just me. It was the fact that I was having sex with a gay guy. And I was like...
just the thought of that.
Fair enough. And she like said it in front of people, and we were just like, I was like, all right, that did change my mood. I don't know how to react to that.
What a great thing to hear at a funeral. Because you'll see that sometimes the people, like, there is a deep ability and maybe even a longing to laugh sometimes at a funeral.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it has to be something that's really like...
Right? And that's like a very, not what I was expecting her to, when she started, like, do you want me to tell you something? And like, that's definitely not what I expected her to say.
Oh, that's great. Oh, man, that makes me think. I've heard in the majority of our evolutionary past, as hunter-gatherers, sex was much more free. Marriage wasn't so strict, like we're only allowed to have sex with you. People were much more, willing to have sex with different people within the tribe. And maybe you had that one person who I'm much closer with you, like you're my best friend equivalent in the tribe. But every now and then I sleep with other people. And it's strange because you can, at least I get a sense for this, and maybe I'm just crazy, but I can see that, especially when you're talking to people who are in relationships.
Yeah.
And every now and then you can feel like we're just talking, having a casual conversation, but you can feel a little flirtatious spike in the conversation.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, like, it's like you could be madly in love with someone, but still be like, oh, this person's hot, I would fuck them. Like, doesn't mean you're in love with this other, you know what I mean? Like,
and I'm not cheating on you. That's just part of being human. Yeah. And if you want to be the kind of person that's like, just don't have sex with anybody, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll play the rules of that game.
My cousin's kid, I think, like, recently told people that that they were open in their relationship, and my mom was like, "Can you believe that?" I was like, "Mom, who cares?"
Mm-hmm.
She was like, "Isn't that weird?" And I was like, "No, I know plenty of couples in New York that are like me and my last ex were. It didn't work out because he would always end up getting mad at me. But
yeah, jealousy in open relationships.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
which is like, I stopped hooking up other people because he was very like, I want you to tell me if you do. So I would, and then the last 2 times he got like furious with me, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna stop doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
open in theory.
Yeah, I was like, he's always mad at me, so I'm just gonna stop. But like, yeah, I know like people can't help. It's like a weird thing, right? Because like, I still get jealous about other things. Like that didn't bother me. The openness, it was like, but I would get jealous at like, I don't know but like I'll get jealous with friends or like, like
if someone makes them laugh more than I can.
Right, or like my podcast, like I'll get jealous if like someone's starts something new and is doing better than me, and I'm like, fuck, I helped that person do the thing and now they're better than me. Like shit. I'll get more jealous of shit like that than like, oh, okay, you want to like fuck that person. Okay. Like,
Jealousy's a funny one. It's
right?
It's strange.
It's irrational no matter what. Like,
well, I would wonder, is there ever a situation? Okay, I was listening to someone talking about the hunter-gatherer life. There was someone describing jealousy and its roots in the following way. Imagine the show Survivor, where someone gets kicked off the island every week. And if you get kicked off if you are worse at a task than someone else, so you don't have the proper relationships in the group. And imagine back in the day, if you're in a situation where food is scarce in your tribe, and someone, if you're not carrying your weight, you might get kicked out of the tribe or kicked out of the island. And so envy had more of a survival root in that specific sort of context, where it's like, oh, that guy's better than me at hunting and I'm really slacking. Maybe I should sabotage him a little bit, or there's some, if I want to survive.
I mean, that makes sense, right? Like if you're going to get jealous about something and food is the, like, I can see like,
when it comes, in a strict survival way, but for something like that, because I've obviously had the same thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, and you can't really help it, right? I think jealousy is like, you learn to manage it, but like, I don't know, you can't just be like, well, I'm not going to be jealous even if you feel, right? You can't just be like, kind of like, what if you get depressed? You can't just be like, well, I'm not going to be depressed. Like, I don't know, it just happens, right? I guess you like train yourself eventually.
Emotional man. What are the best what are some of the most effective tools for happiness you found in your life? Because that's a strange thing that we can go to the moon. We have the fucking internet. We have planes. We have nuclear capabilities. But we figured all that out. But we haven't figured out how to make people very happy, strong, and healthy. I'm taking this from someone else. But that hit me when I heard it. I'm like, that's weird.
I mean, yeah, I'm a real depressed motherfucker. So I don't know, like... I wouldn't know a tool to being happy because you tell me.
It's funny you say that because in our conversation when I've interacted with you, you seem chipper. Like,
I mean, also like you get me at work, so usually I try to like I have like my like
Professional.
Customer service voice, which usually just equates to gayer. I don't know.
The stereotypical happy, like peppy.
Although I did have, there's this older woman who's very nice, but I recently learned she's like very conservative because she was like caught off guard when I mentioned being gay, and she was like, "What?" and stepped back, and I was like, "Oh no!"
I almost choked on my gum.
And she was just like, "I didn't know that you were gay," and she was like, "I guess you can't be my boyfriend anymore," and I was like, "Yes, I can," and she was like, "Oh, you never told me," and I was like, I kind of thought you knew. And like, it was like very weird. And she got like uncomfortable and I could feel it. And I was like, bummed.
She's just pamphlet in her back pocket.
Right. And I was just like, man, like, cause like, I guess I didn't think about it. She just seemed very like a modern older lady. And like, but I guess not.
Have you talked to her since then?
Yeah. She was weird with me that like 2 times after that, but then brought me a Wawa gift card, and I almost think it was an apology for being weird. But it was like my parents are older, and my dad was in the hospital, and I had mentioned to her because she was very religious, but she always seemed like cool religious. And so like she had told me, she was like, "Oh, I'll say some prayers for your dad," and I was like, "Oh, thank you." But then like brought me a Wawa gift card and was like, "I know you've been going through a lot with taking care of your dad," and I was thinking in my head like, ooh, I feel like this is an apology for being weird, but like I'll take it either way, whatever.
Yeah, I kind of love that, the fact that you can have a deeply disagreeing view of reality. We can have a deep disagreement about what's right and wrong to do. Let's say in terms of sexuality, whether being gay is right or wrong or not, and yet we can still agree to disagree. And like, okay, you know what? Do your thing. I still love you. You're still a great person. I love you. You're a great person. Here's a Wawa gift card. I hope your dad's doing well. We don't have to always like.
I'm going to disagree with you because if it weren't at work, I would tell that person to fuck off. But I'm at work, so I'm going. Then I'm like at work. I'm like, yes, I can agree to disagree. But in real life, I'm like, fuck you. Do not think that I am going like at the moment someone's like that, especially about me being gay. I'm just like, well, I hate you. Like my conservative grandma's a lot like that. She doesn't remember things now. She's 99, and she recently like one of the memories that got pushed out of her head was the fact that I'm gay. Because she asked my mom why I didn't have a girlfriend, and she definitely like she knew I was gay because she met my one long-term boyfriend. And I'm like, oh, that's why she's been so much nicer to me now. Like, I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Oh,
because like she didn't really talk to me much before, but since I moved back, like they FaceTime her a lot. So I'll like ask her how she is and whatever. And now I've become her favorite. And I'm like, I was wondering how that happened. And then they went to visit her. And my mom said, she asked me twice, well, you didn't have a girlfriend. And I didn't know what to say because I know she knew you were gay, but she must have like, she's 99. And I was like, aha. That's why.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So like in like when it comes to like real life, I don't with that shit I fully understand your point of view of like agree to disagree, but I'm very like if you're disagreeing with like who I am, then like no, fuck you. There's not like we disagree, but we can still. I don't meet anyone halfway with that shit. Like if you're racist, sexist, or homophobic, like for me, there's not like that's okay. We just don't agree that gay people should die, that black people don't deserve rights. I'm just like, no, fuck you. You're a bad person. So yeah, but like at work, I'm a lot kinder about that shit. Just as like I'm at work.
Yeah, the professional. Oh, okay. I'm curious what you think about this. Have you ever heard of Daryl Davis?
I have not.
Black dude who was introduced to racism when he was young, and he was curious, how could someone hate me without knowing me? And so this ended up sparking a lifelong mission that ended up kind of happening accidentally. But the ultimate result of it was he's ended up engaging in conversations with Klansmen throughout his life. One in particular was this state leader of the Klan. And he ended up becoming friends with the guy. Right? And what really struck me about that, and I'm really curious what the utility and where the place for hate should be, because I don't know exactly... I don't know exactly what to do about a situation where someone is very racist or sexist or homophobic and things like that. But what hits me about this guy is he said I would just have conversations with them, ask them, try to dig to the root of why do you believe this, and kind of walk down that logical path.
Yeah.
And if there were ever things I thought were like incorrect, that don't make sense to me, I would ask, tell you why it doesn't make sense to me, and dig into it. And over years of doing this, the guy ended up leaving the Klan. He actually gave him his robe and kind of went off that whole path. And it was just struck me that he ended up filling those logical potholes in his argument through conversation. And it just makes me wonder, what are the ways to get rid of sexism, homophobia, racism? There's definitely seemed to be, and maybe there is a time where this is the right thing to do. Like in the Civil War, I don't think a conversation was going to solve that.
Right.
Maybe aggression was more necessary then. But nowadays, I see a lot of aggression to kind of stamp it out when people see it. And I look at his model of, and he didn't, by the way, go into these conversations trying to change his mind. He wasn't like, I'm right, you're wrong. He was just trying to understand it.
Okay.
And I'm just curious, like, what are the ways to interact with?
I mean, I definitely, when I was younger, I felt like there's like a thing, right? Like I know when I was younger, like when I first started coming out, I was like, I'm going to be like the good gay. Like, I'm not going to be someone who goes to Pride because I'm different. I'm blah, blah, blah. And like, I thought like, and then it's like, why bother? Why? Like, who are you trying? Like, you know, even in that scenario, I'm like, you won over one Klansman.
Oh no, it ended up being hundreds over.
Oh, really?
years.
Okay.
Mhm.
So like for me, one person, it's like, I don't give a shit. Because they still exist. I don't know. And like for me, like, is it worth it putting all that effort into like changing like, you know, a handful of people that are still like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I used to feel that way about my dad until Trump emboldened everyone to be more stupid. Because my dad was a little less like aggressive about his stupidity when it came to politics. And like was more on the like, taxes end, right? And it's like, all right, sure. Like that's something where I'm like, great, we can agree to disagree if it's like taxes or shit like that. Like I'm very like, yeah, we can agree to disagree.
I was thinking it crosses a line where it's like, I just don't want you in my life.
Right. Yeah. And like, so for me, like that's shit where I'm like more willing, like, you know, like again, when we mentioned before, like I voted for Biden. I don't particularly like him. That's like a agree to disagree. I'm like, well, this was my last pick of all of the, 5,000 candidates we had, but all right, sure. Like, I'm not going to be a brat about it. I'll still vote because I don't want Trump to win. Right. And like, I don't know. I don't know. But there was a part of me in my early 20s when I was like, I'm going to be the gay guy that like is cool with everyone. And like, older people will like, and I don't know. Now old people at work like me more than they did back then because I don't care. Right. And like, like, I guess like older people have bad gaydar, I guess, too. Because like, right. How could you be talking to me every time you come into work and be shocked when I'm like, like literally it was a story. Just this 13-year-old girl clocked me. And that's a story I was telling her because it was funny. And it was just this girl came up and she was like, oh, yeah, okay, never mind. And I was like, what? She was like, I was going to ask about gay books, but I was nervous that the person was straight, but you're obviously gay. And I was like, fair. And like, that's funny. And it was like a 13-year-old girl that said that to me because she wanted to ask about like the gay books we had. And literally that was a story I was telling her. And she like interrupted at that part when the little girl said, oh, well, you're gay. She was like, what? And that's when she was like weird and like stepped back. And I was like, oh, that wasn't really the point of the story. Like, I thought it was funny. I don't know. But yeah, like people like that. And like, I'm sure this lady, I have since learned, and she's still very nice to me. She, like I said, she was weird for like a week or two. She's probably very like Trumpy, whatever. But like, it's weird. And like, so is my grandma who has forgotten I'm gay. And like, it's weird that like older people, while sometimes they'll get more conservative as they get older, I think they sometimes care less. I don't know. They care less about like, they're just like, oh, but you're like a charming young man. And that's kind of all they give a shit about. Right. But they're still going to vote against you and want your people to die. But like, it's weird. I've noticed that there's a lot of older women that come in and like, my boss jokes, like he'll joke that like, that's your demographic. And I don't know why, but it is. Like I have 3 different old ladies that come in the store that say, I love you to me. There's this one, she's like really short and sassy and like was holding my hand last time. She's like, I just love you so much. And I was like, I love you too, Dolores. Like, she's a sweetheart. The first time we met, she said to me, I don't like that thing in your nose, but I'm glad you have it. You should be able to do whatever the hell you want. And I was like,
I
cool.
like you. Yeah.
I was like, you're cool. Okay. Yeah. And I don't know. It's like, it's almost like they're still they will sometimes get more conservative, but they care, like, when they're talking to you, they're not, it's almost like they have a disconnect where they're like, oh, I hate gay people. Oh, no, I like you. You know what I mean? It's like, you're the good one or something like that.
The good one argument. Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, at work, I'm like, sure, fine. And like not work, I'm like, fuck you. Like,
why do you have a fuck you attitude?
I've just like, there's no changing these people's minds, especially as they get older. Like my Puerto Rican grandma, who was very cool. Like I remember when I came out and my aunt and my mom being like, you know, mommy wouldn't have been as cool if we had come out back then. And I was like, all right. And so she changed. Like, that's a credit to her, right? Like, she was able. And there was even one time at a family dinner when my grandma was talking about how she was like, oh, who cares? Who cares who has sex? Everyone has sex. And my Titi was like, Mommy, you told me that only sluts shave their legs when I shaved my legs when I was 17.
That was back then.
And my grandma went, I was stupid back then. And literally that was her answer. And like, not many old people would say that, right? Like, and I was like, man, my grandma's fucking cool. Like, she was cool. And like, the fact that she could just say, I was stupid back then. And like, that's it.
That's it, right?
And like, you can't argue with someone being like, oh, I was being stupid. Like, okay.
Oh, okay. I guess, yeah.
Right?
I thought the same, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, well, all right. So like, I always think of like, she was a very good example of like, you don't have to get more conservative as you know what I mean? It's not, you don't have to become racist and whatever as you get older.
My grandpa, sorry, I feel like
No, go ahead.
No, my grandpa was very much the same. He disowned my mom for several years after she married my dad because he's Puerto Rican. Yeah, he was very racist.
My dad's
for a while.
family did the same thing.
Yeah. And it was, I think, 10 years of being disowned. And my grandma was graduating from nursing school.
On which side?
On my mom's side.
Okay.
And my mom, I forget all the background behind it, but mom was essentially like, fuck it. I'm going to my mom's graduation because she was still close with everyone else in the family. All her brothers and sisters, her mom, just not her dad. And she's like, fuck it. I know my dad's going to be there. I haven't like seen him in the longest time. And if he shuns me or talks shit, I'm going to just fucking like dismiss him and focus on it. It's about my mom. That's why I'm going. And they went there, and I barely remember as a kid, but if I remember correctly, they both just started kind of crying, and like they hug, they make up. I end up having a wonderful relationship with my grandpa. I didn't really understand or care very much about racism and all that stuff when I was that little. And so I loved my grandpa, and he treated me beautifully. He was always wonderful, the kindest person to me, and I've heard many stories to the opposite from other people he knew when he was younger. But so he ended up getting Alzheimer's. He was in a mental institution. And so I go to see him with my grandma and my mom, and we're leaving. And I'm giving him a hug, and he's this big, like 6'2" guy, like heavy build, like a Santa Claus looking motherfucker. And I hear this laughing, like this really kind of shaking laughing. And I look up and he's crying. And I recall never hearing or seeing a man cry before. Maybe that vague memory before when they met, but I was so little I barely remember. Yeah. And he just looks at me and he asks me, do you love me? And I don't even remember what I said there. My mom says I said yes, but I do. And it just it hit me so much. And like, all right, the elevator's here. We got to go. Yeah. And that always stuck with me. People's potential to change. And some people do not. Some people get very stuck in their ways. And I'm like, I am never fucking changing.
That was my dad's dad. Yeah.
And hey, but it's cool to know that some people who you might have looked at one point in their life and thought they were never going to change still could do that extreme 180. It's just.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And like, I mean, like my dad's mom, once my grandpa died, she definitely chilled out a little bit. Like that's my dad actually like didn't want me to come out and was like, can you not come out to my parents? And I was like, I don't even like them, so fine. Because he was just worried about like what they would like do or say or whatever. And like I kind of, to give my dad some credit, I kind of get that, right? It's like He didn't want to have to like pick between his son and his parents and whatever. And I didn't really like them, so I didn't care. Because as a kid, even though like, yeah, same thing. Like I didn't quite get the racist thing. Because I'm the baby by far in the family. But I didn't like them anyway because they were so like uptight and like not lovey and like very much like
Stern face, no emotion.
You know what I mean? And they were like, so like as a kid, you don't like as an adult, I don't like those people. But like, you know what I mean? Especially as a kid, you're like, well, this isn't fun. So like, I didn't like them anyway. You know what I mean? It was like,
So like, no skin off my back.
yeah,
Like fucking
yeah.
okay.
That's funny that your parents had the same shit my parents did.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom actually was just talking about this the other night, how like so they got married by Justice of the Peace, and it was like very small, and they still invited my dad's parents, and they went, and when my grandpa went up to, like, my mom thought to congratulate them, he whispered to my mom, I give it 1 month, this is a fling. And it's like, God, he said that.
Wait, to your mom getting
He
married?
said that my dad's dad said that to my mother, and it was because they didn't like that my dad was marrying a Puerto Rican. Yeah.
He said that to your mom?
Yeah, my grandpa said that to my mom at her wedding. Yeah, right?
Did she unleash Puerto Rican wrath upon him?
She said she only didn't because she loved my dad so much and she knew
And
it
was
would
the wedding?
ruin
This
the
is
wedding.
the-
Yeah. She's like, I just didn't. She was like, and I had to hold mommy back because mommy wanted to kick his ass. And I was like, I'm sure she did.
That Puerto Rican fire
Yeah.
is real, man.
I said that to my one friend. He was like, about like some like stupid drama. And I was like, listen, I don't like this person and I'm not going to like them. He went, I know you're Puerto Rican. You're going to hold a grudge. I was like, yes.
Yeah. See, this is oh, I love that you're Puerto Rican. It's so funny because my brother, we laughed that he got my mom's skin and I got my dad's because he looks almost, now that I'm thinking about it, he looks a lot like you. Has like the gauges, the beard, the cut. Yeah, I wonder how many Puerto Ricans I've seen that I just don't know. But it's funny, if you ask me, I feel like I'm American. Like I don't think I'm Puerto Rican or Slovak. I feel like
Dickhead, Puerto Rican is American.
fuck. Oh no, I made
you're
that. I
one of those
know.
people.
Oh no, I knew that, and I just became that guy. I'm sorry, Dad.
There's actually one of the, I mentioned the women that say I love you. One of them is this like Puerto Rican mom, and she actually clocked me immediately. She was like, Mira, you're Puerto Rican, right? And I was like, yeah.
Huh?
And she was like, well, duh, I can tell. It's obvious. And I was like,
Damn, I gotta up my Puerto Rican radar.
I had a guy at the horror convention I mentioned going to. This guy, kind of drunk, dressed as Blade, the Wesley Snipes vampire character. And I went to him and I was like, oh my God, I love Blade. Can I get a picture with you? And he was like, yeah. And he's like very clearly drunk and he has his arm around me and he's like, looks me up and down and he goes, you mixed? And I was like, what? And he was like, you're mixed, right? And I was like, yeah. He was like, Puerto Rican or Cuban? And I was like, what? And he was like, Puerto Rican, right? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, you got that good mixed skin. He was like, my baby mama has the same skin as you. And I was like, all right.
Do you
cool.
tan in the sun?
I do, yeah.
Oh, nice. You got the good stuff.
Yeah. I feel like I tan very easily. Although now I've noticed a weird thing. When I was younger, it would stick, like it would stay. But like I will tan and then by the next day, it'll start fading already. Right? Isn't that
Weird. Never heard of that before.
Yeah. Because I still tan easily, just it'll go away like very quickly. But when I was younger, it would like stick around for a while.
Gotcha. All right. I'm going to ask you the final
Hit me.
official question. What is...
Are we going to prom together? Yes.
I just ripped this off. I have a dress underneath it. What is one of the best takeaways, a good thing you've gotten from a very dark point in your life?
This is going to seem like trite, but
No, it's fine.
the story I told about finding my friend dead. I really like horror movies. And I would always like joke that I would be the friend that dies like in the middle of a horror movie, like, oh, the best friend of the person who makes it, the final girl. And after that, I decided I can be a final girl, that I can make it. Because if I can make it through that, which was like a horror movie, I can make it through a lot of shit.
Thank you for being on, Ian. And one more time, your podcast.
Slayerfest 98. You can find at Slayerfest X98 on all social media platforms. We talk Buffy and Marvel, and My Bloody Judy at My Bloody Judy on Twitter. We talk all horror movies, and both podcasts are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.
That's all, y'all.
Fuck yeah. That was fun.